Larry.
What?
Hold on. Wait a minute. Go right now on your computer.
Yeah.
To the JimandLarryTeam.com.
Oh, that's great.
Woo!
Nice, Jim.
Oh, I need deodorant.
In my bathroom.
Like sweating.
I know, me too. So can I move everything to my office?
Move it. Get your ass going. Oh, I need a lean face. Where do we have one?
Here.
Okay. Just give me 3.
Yeah.
I'll be really amped up for today. Let's start with our take. Our take on the first 2 days.
Okay.
And then we can get a little play on words.
Is this gonna... Wait, how
Leave the camera. Leave the camera. Camera's not on.
Unplug this?
Nope. Leave it in.
Okay.
Oh, look, it's you. Let me put some trimix in. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Look, Larry, it works. Oh, but it won't hold. It's too heavy. It's live on a fucking website. That is ballsy. Where's the water? I'm going to add the donate button right here, and it'll take you to the Revive Life. And then add.
Don't forget to silence your phone. Do I need to bring this stuff over too? The camera and all that stuff? No? I'm just gonna go. Okay.
One person watching live.
Yes, it works.
Oh, I did it. That's pretty cool.
Yes, that's very cool. Good job.
I wasn't looking for your accolades. Guess I was.
I don't care. You're getting it. Don't fucking care. Bust that motherfucker in tonight.
All right, I'm gonna go in here. Media, upload, search desktop, hour. No.
The lonely nights. Tonight. Thank God for this.
Honey toast. I had it right here. I'll take it. I got 12 minutes. Nine. Video.
How come, like, I'm on our Facebook page and it's showing me from last night?
What?
Right now on my Apple computer, I'm on the Jim and Larry team.
Don't worry about it, Larry.
I'm a fine stud.
Hilarious.
What?
If all this is going across.
I know. It would.
Let's just assume it's good. And let's change our. Let's kick on and let people know we got a few minutes. And they want to get on. There's one person watching live.
Isn't that us?
We should go in real quick and tell everybody.
Okay, wait. I don't know how you do that, but
I'll take care of it. I'll unmute when you're ready, and we'll come in on both sides of the.
I'm ready.
Hey, everybody. Let's make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me, Larry?
I can hear you.
Perfect. We are just about 8.5 minutes away before going live on Changemakers21 night 3.
Yes.
Larry, people want to tune in. It's been amazing so far.
It has. I mean, I am fired up for tonight. The speakers that we've had the last 2 nights have been so inspirational, so authentic, so genuine, and just sharing stories about how people, ordinary people are doing extraordinary things in their communities. We really need this at this time. So I encourage and invite everybody to listen in. I promise you won't be disappointed.
Yeah, you can watch on YouTube by Googling Changemakers21. You'll see there's a live feed right now. You can watch on Facebook by going to the Jim and Larry team and various other places where this has been shared. And then additionally, you can go to the jimandlarryteam.com and you can watch it right live on the website. So join us in about 7 minutes, 45 seconds. I'm going to tick us off now. here we go.
are.
We're live.
Good evening.
Larry, what an event so far. I don't even really know what to say. It's been quite incredible, life-changing for me, career-defining, to be real candid. So I'll let you talk. What do you want to say?
I want to say, I'm really fired up for tonight. And the last two nights, like you said, have been emotional and life-changing. Hearing stories, so many different stories, but stories of challenging beginnings, that where people rose above where they came from, which is incredible in and of itself. But then to understand how they're giving back to the community and helping, whether it's youth or senior citizens, just helping people so that they don't have to go through what others had been through similar to them. Hearing stories of some, what I would call ordinary people doing extraordinary things, hearing stories of spirit and passion and perseverance versus the pocketbook, just hearing stories of how people are making their communities better. And it's so uplifting at, this time of what the world is going through.
Wait. Larry, are we giving our take on things?
Yes, I think that's what it's called.
I think we should at least then play the music, don't you think?
Okay.
Whoa, it's our take. Whoa, with Jim and Larry. Oh, it's very real, honest and straightforward. Whoa, it's our take.
All right, we paid money to have that made, so I just wanted to play it.
Yeah, so Jim is of the partnership. He's the tech guy. He does all these fancy things.
Well, I don't know if that was fancy. It was just what it was.
I don't know. I thought it was fancy.
But so let's go into our take. Seriously, night one was amazing, and not to take anything away from the night one participants, but I think you get better as you go. Mm-hmm. And night two was really incredible. What was amazing to me, and my take on the situation, why it was so really cool, is because we got to see the Changemakers begin to unite together. Right. And they started working together, commenting, collaborating. Last night, we released the Facebook group and invited all the Changemakers to join it. It's a private group where they can collaborate. Tonight, at the conclusion, we'll release the LinkedIn group so they can collaborate together on LinkedIn. And I've already seen it. The feedback and support for Preston last night was just incredible. And it's just been amazing.
Yeah, and we're going to be continuing after tonight. We have 45 Changemakers that we're featuring in 2021. So tonight will be our 33rd Changemaker. And beginning on Wednesday, August 9th, we'll be releasing Changemakers every week, Monday, Wednesday, and
That's a Monday.
Friday. Beginning August 9th.
Yeah, that's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
You said Wednesday. Sorry.
Oh, I thought I said, anyways, my apologies. It'll be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, beginning Monday, August 9th. We'll be continuing to feature the Changemakers as well as new Changemakers, and that'll run through, I think it's November 17th. And then what do we have, Jim, on the 19th of November?
Yeah, so on the 19th of November, we're going to have something really cool. We're going to announce voting for a couple of awards that we are going to award on behalf of Jim and Larry to the various Changemakers. Revitalize, of course, will be a beneficiary of some of what we're doing, but we really want to highlight, support, and propel these Changemakers and reward what they're doing. So on November the 19th, we're going to open up voting. Once you've seen all 45 Changemakers, you'll have an opportunity to vote for about 2 weeks. And then we're going to announce the awards after that. More details to come on that Friday, November the 19th.
That's great. So we'll be continuing this series again, beginning August 9th and going through November 19th. I also I want to share that Jim and I, through the Jim and Larry team, this was and is a passion of ours. making communities
Absolutely.
better and highlighting change makers. And for anyone that is inspired to make a donation tonight, you can donate on the Revitalize page. You can also donate on the Jim and Larry team page, and that'll take you to Revitalize. We are personally matching up to $5,000 of those monies raised, and that'll go directly into the Changemakers pockets so that they can continue to do what they're doing.
Yeah, a portion of everything we're doing is designed to continue the revitalized mission of communities in unity. And we saw it firsthand last night, and it was just really quite amazing. So I think we should get into the event and get ourselves started. Okay. And we can go from there. So I'm going to, if it's okay with you, Larry, I'm going to queue up our first person.
Queue it up.
Perfect. So I had the pleasure of being introduced to a man that I will just tell you is a genius in my opinion. What he does and the way he does it, I've never heard of anything quite like it. And the reason why it means so much to me is because his story is not the typical story of just a good person doing good things. He will tell you he started off as not a really good person. And it's because of that, the challenges that he had and the results of what he was going through and what he had done, it propelled and inspired him to do something quite amazing. So let's take a listen right now to Mr. Kevin Butterfield, tonight's first Changemaker and the 23rd Changemaker announced. All right, everybody, welcome back to Changemakers. We're here with a really special guest out of, is it Indianapolis? Is that home for you?
Yeah, we'll call it Indianapolis, yes.
Fair enough. Indianapolis, Indiana, Mr. Kevin Butterfield. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us. We made several attempts to connect, and I'm glad we were finally able to make it work. Crazy schedules will do that sometimes, but you're doing some really interesting things. I've been really, I don't want to say fixated on it, but I've been researching and looking at all the stuff you're doing, and it's truly amazing. But our audience probably has no idea who you are. They're watching from different parts of the country, different parts of the world. So can you share a little bit about your background, what you do, and who you are?
Yeah, my name's Kevin Butterfield. My background is that I used to be a chiropractor for a long time. My dad was a brain surgeon. I was always fascinated to follow his footsteps, but he said, no, don't follow my footsteps. Do something more natural, because with what he does is when he gets to the bad stuff, when he comes back out, he said, it's all bad. There's got to be another way. So I went the holistic route and went to do the chiropractic stuff. Now, when I was a kid, he was the doctor for the Detroit Tigers, so I always used to go to home games with him. I never got to see a home game because he always got called in to do, emergency surgery. So he put me in the observation booth. So I saw a lot of brain surgeries live, from the age of 6 to 8. So a sidetrack of that one, or on the same track, is I was a avid race fan. I just always loved racing. And I always researched and looked at frame by frame all the videos of crashes, and I wanted to change that so where the drivers wouldn't die or they wouldn't get killed, or they'd still get hurt, they'd still have a crash, but I mean there's got to be something to do to make racing a little bit safer. So as I grew up, I got some racing safety stuff that Formula One uses and IndyCar uses today to keep the cars more on the track and out of the fence. That's one of my passions, is racing. You can probably see a helmet behind me. That was Scott Brayton's helmet that he won the pole with at the Indy 500. He was killed the next year though. But I was a bully as a kid. In 3rd grade, I was a mental bully, not the physical type. And this one kid that was different, nobody knew what was wrong with him. He would look up to me like I hung the moon, but I was teasing him the whole time and he didn't know it. He didn't realize it, but he was always at my hip. This was in 3rd grade. I was like that. And I remember one instance where they bought the trampolines in school that day. It was some kind of new thing. And, so they would drop it off at our school. We'd all get to bounce on it, and then they would take it to another school. And I remember the kid I was a bully with, Andy Silverman. I mean, always is a great kid, but so he would always stand. I told him to stand in the back of the gym while we'd all go jump on the trampoline. He never got to jump on the trampoline because every time I come by, he goes, "Can I go now? Can I go now?" I said, "No, stay there." So what he did was the last time I went around, I said, "Go jump on the trampoline." I remember to this day, it's so vivid. He was running towards the trampoline in the gym and the bell rang. Class was over. And the teachers tried to get him, and he was trying to get around him. Just so he wanted to touch it or just jump on it. And he never made it to the trampoline. So he came back to me, and he was crying, you know. So it was from that point on in third grade that I said, "Hey, if I can say no to a kid and make him cry like that, I'm never going to say no to the kid again." So we went our separate ways. He went where he was going in third grade. I went where I was going. But from that point on, I was now the physical bully for the different kids that were different, right? They'd come to me if they were getting picked on. I'd go to them and give them their due justice. So, but it was like that throughout my life. I mean, from that point on, I was always watching out for the underdog. I was always, you know, they're put on the other side of the fence for some reason. They don't need to be there. They need to be on our side of the fence with us. So I thought about this kid forever. Went in the army, went in Europe and stuff like that. And I tried to get a hold of like Dr. Phil and Oprah and say, "Can you find Andy Silverman for me? I have got to talk to him again," because we lost touch, you know. He went to a different school or moved or something. And I said, "I want to find this kid and tell him, first of all, that I'm sorry for the way I treated him. But second of all, I wanted to thank him because he made me who I am today. Always helping the underdog, looking out for him, stuff like that." So I never got a hold of him, but I always thought of him. You know, he never left my mind. But then with the advent of Facebook, I found him. Right, I found him on Facebook, and this was 40 years later. And I said, "Andy, give me your number. I got to call you. I got to talk to you." So I was just going to tell him in person what I was going to tell on Oprah. So he picked up the phone. I just kept rambling on about everything as if we were still in third grade and stuff. And he said to me, "I want you to help me find a girlfriend." I said, "That's no problem, Andy. You got to put in a tic tac, open the door, get her flowers, tell her she's pretty, all this stuff." And then it was quiet for a second. And he goes, "What if she doesn't let me jump on the trampoline?" I said, "Well, Andy, then that's not your girl." Right. So he carried that around for 40 plus years. And I carried it around for 40 plus years. And I said, "Andy, we got so much things to do." And that's why I founded the Brain Force Center. Right. And I'll get to that in a second. So I said, "Andy, we're going to have a foundation with our Brain Force Center. We're going to call it Andy's Trampoline. So people that are different can afford to get the care they need." The Brain Force Center is a deep brain neurofeedback center with advanced protocols. I wanted to find something that would help the Andy Silvermans in the world and help everybody else that I can. If you can trace a problem back to the brain, not the timing is off on it, it's not firing right, and you can see it and you can measure it, you can change it. And that's what I want to do. And we've had many cases of people that were suicidal, on the edge, couldn't sleep, PTSD, stress, anxiety, depression, migraines, all this stuff seemed to get a heck of a lot better with what we do. So that's all I do now, is I work on the brains.
That's really cool. And, you know, Kevin, when you were nominated, I didn't really know exactly what you do. So I went through and I started looking, and then having talked to you now a couple of times, it's amazing. You shared some things with me. That's the first time I've heard that story. And that was really, again, I'm glad you're here, because there's a lot of people like that. I have my own third grade. It's funny. I have my own third grade story.
Yeah.
And I will never forget it. I don't know if the kid that was involved will remember it, but I'll never forget it for my entire life. And it's interesting. That seems like a pivotal or a critical age for those types of things. But so you were nominated because you're doing some things that have made a really big impact on a specific group of people. And you've explained a little bit about that, but it looks like you just covered what I was going to ask you next, which is what inspired you to do that. And it's Andy Silverman. So you still talk with Andy today?
Yes, I do.
Very, very cool. Kevin, as you were putting it together, you're involved in a lot of different things. So you talked about some of your desires around suicide prevention. And was there a catalyst for that? Was there something that happened, or was it that incident that triggered your work in that field too?
No, I mean, we've had people that come in. A friend of mine said, "Hey, my friend has a kid that is suicidal and he can't get into the stress center locally because it's full. Can you help him?" I said, "Well, maybe. Let's try it, So I met him in here like at midnight, and this kid was like at the end of his rope. I could just tell. And he was sitting with his dad in the room, and the friend who used to be a patient of mine was sitting in there too. And I said, "Look, I don't know what your story is. You have a great brain, right? So I bet your brain is having a battle within itself and that you can't referee or stop it, right? So I said, I'm going to tell you the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your life is I'm going to put this cap on your head and you're going to hear some noises and it's going to pull you back on the ledge because that's the dumbest thing I ever heard." And I said, "I just told you that." So it actually did. I mean, so we put the cap on his head. And he started off looking down, right? He was looking down, didn't want to, hear anything or talk to anybody. And then we put the hat on, and then he started to, you can see his shoulders just drop like he was relaxing. And then he was smiling, looking up at his dad, saying, "I'm sorry." And he was, he's fine today, right? And he was totally done with everything, right? So it's stuff like that. If you can see it and you can measure it in your brain, you can change it. Most of the people that are in that state are in a state called hyperarousal or fight or flight. They're staring at and kids like this too. I mean, we have a lot of kids that come in and they are the same way. So they're stuck in fight or flight mode, which means they're looking at the door ready for some threat to come in that's not coming in. But they're on the edge of their seat on high alert. If their mom tells them to clean their room or do your homework, they're going to go ballistic. I can't. I'm too busy looking at the door, ready for this threat to come in. Then I get neutralized, right? So, in people that are stuck in fight or flight for so long, it switches over automatically to PTSD. Your brain just says, "Okay, let's just chuck it in that drawer and leave it there." So, it's the thing with the advanced settings and advanced protocols you can do is you can unstick the fight or flight stuff. And it happens like right then when they're sitting there. You can see the changes that they go through. So what we do, I'll try to explain it, and I'll use my little finger here, is we take that raw brainwave signal. You've seen the heart signal on a heart monitor. Well, the brain has some kind of something you can see as well, the waves. So we take that raw signal, break it down into 9 distinct brainwave frequencies, and put that in a box. We compare that box with somebody your age, your gender, your left or right-handedness, and we know if that box has too much or too little electrical activity compared to a quote normal brain database. So either one of those could be a problem, but probably not. It's one box, right? So if we take that box and we put 6,800 of them, 6,800 boxes around the brain and get a complete 3D picture of your brain, we know where the misfire is. We know where the timing is off in your brain. And let's say out of those 6,800 boxes, for example, 200 boxes are the problem. The problem being what? Addiction, stress, anxiety, PTSD, you name it. If we can target those 200 boxes to make a change, it changes the brain. The brain knows where it wants to be and wants to stay there. It's like when we look at the monitor, we got a box that we look at. So let's say your white line is your frequency. It's got to be on a straight line, smooth at the bottom of the screen. That's what we want to see. Most of the people that come in, that line is going like this, up and down, even outside of the box. You can't even see it. So it'll go up and down through that box. It's as if it's walking through a dark room and does not know where the exit is. And it will continue through its life not knowing where the exit is. I know where the exit is. Or this machine and technology knows where the exit is. So it'll follow. If the white line's going like this, A green line will follow it, cross over it, make a different sound. Let's say it's just in those 200 boxes. And you can watch it minute by minute. Is your brain going to follow that green line because the green line knows where the exit is? And the answer is yes. So you'll see it go from way up here and start to smooth out and stay down where it should be. So you got those 200 boxes where it should be. The brain is in a better state, and usually it'll take, could take 30 to 40 sessions of doing this. But once you do it, your brain knows where it wants to go. Your brain knows where it wants to stay. And I tell people that come in here, we can talk for hours to figure out what the trigger was to make your timing off in your brain. We can figure it out, but it's not going to help me today, right? I got to know where your brain is today, and I know where it's got to be tomorrow. So, but all the other stuff, I'll listen to your story, but I don't really need to have a story. It could be concussion, could be, anything that you took that is neurotoxic that your brain couldn't process out. Anyway, the timing is all cattywampus and your symmetry of the brainwaves are all messed up. So we can get that back to where it goes. So that's where, we're not anti-talk therapy. We're not anti-medicine. There's a time and place for all that stuff. But if 200 boxes that you can find is your problem, you can't just talk to those 200 boxes and say, you better behave and stay where you should be. That doesn't happen. Medicine increases or decreases your brainwave frequencies, but all of them. It'll get to the 200 boxes, but what about those boxes that don't need anything? That's where you got kids that, are D and F students to AB. We've taken spectrum kids that wouldn't look at you, the blank stare, and made them look at you and be more socially acceptable, I guess. And I tell people that have really bad down the autism route that they're really bad. I said, we're not going to make your kid a Heisman Trophy winner. We're going to make them as best they can be with what they have. And it is a big change. I mean, the autism kids won't look you in the eye because the brainwaves in the back of their head of where their visual cortex is so much on fire that to look at you, they got to put more information back in the visual cortex, and that's way too much fire for them to handle, so they can't handle it. So they try not to look at you, and they try not to process what they're looking at. So if you calm the fire down back there, hey, that's doing something, right?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's going to be people that see this interview and they think, oh my gosh, could he help in some way? So first things first, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can go to brainforcecenters.com, and all the contact information's on there.
Perfect.
And we have people that I reserve consult time for people around the world that have questions. So even though I can't get to them, I will talk to you, and I will help you find somebody who does what we do. There's different levels of neurofeedback. I mean, there's some neurofeedback that you can take home and do it, right? That's really not as clinical as what we do. There's not a lot of people, I guess, in the world that do it at this level that we do, but there are. Hopefully more and more people will do that. Our goal is to expand what we do and use the racing stuff, IndyCar, NASCAR as our like brand ambassadors, and have a car in those series to get this word out across the country and hopefully around the world more. So more people do this, right? I mean, if you look at the statistics on mental health stuff, we're trending in the opposite direction we should be trending in.
For sure.
So what does that tell you?
What we're doing is not working.
Yeah, I'd say. So, I mean, this is not a cure-all, catch-all kind of thing. I mean, it helps, the standard 85% of the people it helps, 15 it doesn't, right? We haven't seen our 15% it doesn't yet, because with the advancement of this technology, you can adjust stuff on the fly. You know what I mean? It's not a home trainer kit. It's like taking home home prostate checker kit. It's going to get messy, but I mean, sorry.
I processed that for a second.
Sorry.
No,
stuff doesn't go through customs with me. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I totally get it. No filter.
Okay.
I appreciate that. So last thing I want to throw out there at you is somebody might see this and feel inspired, to take action with their own Andy Silverman situation, their own third grade story, their own memory that they want to have an impact on. So I'm sure you encountered challenges. I'm sure you've encountered frustrations and failures along with the successes. So what's, in the last 30 seconds we have here, what's the advice you would have for someone that wants to do something to make an impact in their community like you've made in this one?
What would they have to do? I mean, that's a good question. I mean, if you want to do this, I mean, I would research as much as you can on it. I just mean
anything for people that are like, you followed your passion and you're making a difference. Other people have different passions and they feel stuck a lot. I guess this is kind of funny. I'm talking to you about people being stuck in their mind, right? Yeah. But they might feel stuck, like they can't make an impact. They don't have the background that you have, and they don't know what to do to make an impact. Maybe theirs is their community is a mess, or their school system is a mess, and they want to do something. So what do you say to people that feel stuck?
You're not stuck. I mean, I wouldn't say you're stuck. I'd say keep digging. Then you'll unstick your feet out of the concrete sooner or later. But I went down a different route until I jumped on this route, right? But this route has always been my passion and I guess my everything, right? And I sooner or later I would get there. I had to go through everything else I did before to get to this point. But I mean, I don't know. I wasn't stuck, I guess. I was just occupied doing something different, but I'd say keep going.
I appreciate that. One of our change makers that we talked to, I asked that question to, and they said something really cool. And they said, I was scared, right? So my advice to you is do it afraid.
Yeah,
I thought that was cool advice. And yours is just keep digging. I love it.
Keep digging. You'll get there.
All right. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks for the work you're doing in this community. Hopefully, all the change makers here will be united shortly after this. There's 45 change makers from around the world that we highlighted. I know you've already connected with one, and I've got another one in mind that I really need you to connect with. Their work in the autism field is amazing. Yeah. And I think you'll be a good partner for them. But guys, we got more change makers coming up right after this. I'm going to throw it back to my colleague and partner, Larry Cohn.
Thank you very much. I'll see you.
That was a great story. I mean, you never know what you say to someone, how it impacts. So like his interaction with Andy Silverman in third grade has pivoted and turned around to help thousands and thousands of people. It's pretty
right. What I love about it is it didn't start off as a feel-good story.
No,
right? Ken is one of those people that's just raw and authentic and real. And, to his own admission, was kind of a jerk and recognized that what he was doing wasn't helping. It was only hurting people and made the pivot. Just like you said, it's really, really an amazing story. And I love to hear things like that because that's real life. Right. I had a conversation with one of our change makers that we're going to talk with later tonight, Michelle Shepard. And, we had her on our podcast, Larry, and she said, if I would have come out as trans in third grade, and it's funny that she said third grade, because that was like my story too. She goes, Jim, you would have kicked my ass. And it's just the way it was back then. And like, I'm really a firm believer in don't erase the past, learn from it. And well done, Kevin. My hat's off to you. I applaud you for your lesson that you taught yourself in third grade. Larry, I'll let you talk.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, great. So I'm going to announce our next change maker. He is an international best-selling author. He is from St. Louis. He's actually been named as one of the top 100 St. Louisans to know. But what really inspired me when I heard the interview was that his passion is connecting people and developing authentic relationships. So let us introduce the next Changemaker honoree, Mr. Joseph Luckett.
All right, everybody. We are here with Joseph Luckett. Joseph, how are you, my friend?
I am absolutely incredible.
Yeah, well, you know what? It stands to reason that you're absolutely incredible. I've seen so many amazing things coming out of you. Now, here's what I'll say. A lot of times when I'm talking to the people on these Changemakers interviews, and I've done quite a few so far, and when I talk to them, the people in Melbourne, Australia or Ghana have no idea who I'm talking to and, what their background is or anything like that. But with you, it may be a little different. There may be people that are utilizing your program and some of the things that you put together all over the world. Your message has been spread. But just in case, could you share a little bit about who you are, your background, where you're from, and what you got going in life?
I'll start out by saying I am one of 17 children, adopted, and a native to St. Charles, Missouri. Went to St. Charles Community College, which is a local college here. And I also went to, for a very small stint of time, went to Lindenwood University, and I was in pursuit of international business with a minor in Spanish and Sign Language. Fast forward, in 2011, I was introduced to business networking, and it was something that completely wowed me. And I thought that business networking was only available in St. Charles, kind of like living in Maine. You're privy to fresh lobster or fresh seafood. I thought we were the only ones who had access to networking. And I've created a concept, which we're still in the very early stages. I'm founder and CEO of 0 to 100 and author of the #1 international best-selling book, 0 to 100, the gold standard of global networking, which became a #1 international bestseller in the first 43 hours of its launch in 4 countries, 30 categories, #1 in 5 of those categories of the 30.
Wow. Is that all? No, I'm just kidding. That's amazing. That's amazing. So you and I connected before you were bringing this all out, and you were so excited about what it was going to be. And so to see it come to fruition is pretty amazing. Now, Joseph, one of the reasons why we nominated you as a change maker was not only for what you're doing, because what you're doing is pretty amazing, but the path that you're blazing that makes other people feel like they can do it too. And you have had a couple of firsts. I believe you were the first person of color to be given the key to the city of St. Charles. Is that correct?
Yes, in 250 years of the city being created.
That's amazing. And again, it isn't always about what you're doing that makes you a change maker. It's about how other people are made to feel by what you're doing. And that is what was really important to me with nominating you and having you on here. So you were my nomination. A lot of the people that were nominated came from other sources, but man, I had to have you as part of this program because what you do lets other people feel like they can do something amazing, because this is your brainchild, like start concept to birth to grown up to college graduate kind of concept. You took it from the beginning in the infancy stages. Tell me what inspired you to do this.
One person out of many inspired me. Her name is Laura Boges, and her and I met after I became a top 100 St. Louis and You Need to Know to Succeed in Business, which is an award that the St. Louis Small Business Monthly gives to individuals. Her and I met over LinkedIn. She invited me out for coffee. 5 coffees later, she said, "Joseph, can I tell you how I see your life? There's a dream I had about you." And she said, the first meeting that I had with you and every meeting thereafter, this was not just a networking meeting. It was a meeting of inspiration. It was a meeting of excitement. It was a meeting based on education. And at some point, you are going to have people that are reaching out to you that want your time. And given that you love people so much, you're not going to be able to get to everybody. But would you do me a favor? And so I said, "What's the favor?" She says, "Will you write a book and put your process in it? Because if you don't do that, you would be doing an injustice to everybody. You're the most efficient networker that I've ever met. And your name is in so many different rooms, but yet you're not in all those rooms." So Laura Boges was the individual that recognized that and put the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what she did for me.
Very cool. Can you share, because a lot of people will hear this and they're like, "Oh, he wrote a book." And please take this the right way. This isn't diminishing of the efforts, but this is explaining why you're such an important change maker. You know, you wrote a book and that's great. That's profitable. You make money when you write a book. You came up with this concept, all of these things. Those are great, but you've connected amazing people together. So do you have any success stories about some of the people that you've connected that you're comfortable sharing, obviously with their permission, you know, like how they've connected and what's happened from those relationships that you've helped forge?
One other person that I bring to the forefront of everybody, her name is Brittany Culbertson. And I was having a meeting several years back with my friend Matt Barbie. And Brittany happened to be there meeting with another individual who happens to be named Jordan Lindsay at Caldy's in Chesterfield, Missouri. And so Brittany and I were introduced through Jordan. I was there to meet Matt Barbie. And so we exchanged information. Weeks go by. Brittany and I get together. Fast forward of Brittany talking with me, having conversations with me, us sharing each other's network. She ran a statistics chart. I think that might be what it's called. And just listening to me and applying some of my philosophies and my approach when it comes to business networking, what she found out was 43% statistically of her business came by way of me. And by applying my philosophies and principles when it comes to connecting with individuals. That is one of the best success stories from a statistics perspective that I have for you, Jim.
That's fantastic, Joseph. And do you have any things that you want to share with people that were like struggles putting it together? When you put something together like this, you have a lot of failures, and people now see the success, right? They see the smiling face, and they see that I've put my head through the wall, had to do all these things. But what were some of the challenges putting this together that you encountered?
Going into a space that I'd never been in before, from creating a business from scratch, what it looks like from a legality perspective, understanding what it means to raise capital, which we've not raised any capital yet, but understanding what each, whether it be a hedge funder, whether it be an angel investor, a venture capitalist, whether it be crowdfunding. So learning about what all of those things mean, understanding what's going on with the pandemic and being able to pivot with that, because it's nothing like coming to the finish line per se with the first aspect of our business model and not being able to pull the trigger due to something that's unknown for so many. So being able to communicate through all of that, pivot, have conversations, strategize in a deeper way, become creative in a bigger way, I would say wasn't so much of a struggle, just more of a patience lesson.
That's great. So I just replayed something in my mind that you said earlier. You're one of 17 children.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
amazing. And so do you mind if I ask, so you were adopted? Is that what I heard?
Correct. So one of the things I guess I'll put in on this interview is that I call it beating the odds. So for anybody that's going to watch this, what I mean by beating the odds is, one, I'm an African American. So we understand there's statistics surrounding my culture. Number two, I was adopted. So I didn't have to go into many different foster homes. I went directly from the hospital to some individuals that love me dearly, which are my parents, that adopted me. I am 37 years old. I have never been incarcerated. I've never done a drug. I've never consumed alcohol. I've founded an entire concept. I'm an author. Jim, here's another first for you. I'm the first African-American international best-selling author in St. Charles. So when I say beating the odds, thus far, I've beaten the odds, and I'm so grateful to be able to verbalize that to anybody. And so anybody that's going to be watching this, if you have the right people around you and you have the right resolve, the right amount of resilience, you have patience, and you live in what I call gratitude and celebrating every nanosecond and smelling the petal, not the rose, and understanding that there are people that are better than you. There are people that are smarter than you, and being okay with that, because that's amazing. It keeps your head in the dictionary or the almanac or the farmer's almanac. That's an absolutely amazing thing. And anybody can do what I've done. Anybody can.
Well, I was going to close this out by saying, can you share your words of wisdom for anybody that might feel inspired to do something, but you just did? I'll give you the last 20 seconds just because it was already written down that you were going to get it, but you can say goodbye in your own way or inspire again as you've done this entire interview. But the last 20 seconds are yours, Joseph.
One of my favorite quotes, and it happens to be my quote, is serve the human race. Don't cherry pick the race. In other words, serve everybody equally, no matter where they come from. Because if you're an entrepreneur, from my perspective, you signed up in the business to serve the human race. You didn't sign up in the business to serve a particular race. And once you understand that, you'll win bigger than you've ever won in your entire life.
Wow. Nothing needed to be said after that. Thank you so much. Congratulations on being the first class of Changemakers for Revitalize in our entire history. So congratulations to you, my friend, on all your success. And I know there's much more to come.
Thank you so much, Jim, for having me. It's an honor.
Awesome. Larry Combe, we're going to send it all back to you so that you can keep us going with more Changemakers.
Yeah, before we get to our next change maker, I loved his quotes, and I really liked what he said about, smelling the petal and not the rose. And that inspires me to share one of my favorite quotes with everybody out there tonight. And that is, a happy life is a string of happy moments, but most people miss the happy moments because they're so busy trying to get the happy life. So just savor where you are. Thank you, Joseph. And Jim, I'm going to turn it back to you to introduce the next speaker. I hear she's amazing. I did not get a chance to listen to this interview, but I'm really, really excited to hear her.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even know who it is. I'm just kidding. So before I do that, I just want to talk to Joseph and tell you that it's really kind of appropriate that we are where we are in this event. And I heard about Joseph's philosophies and what he was going to be releasing like 3.5 years ago. And he really is an inclusive kind of guy. He invited several people to take part in what he was doing. Just an amazing character, amazing man with amazing character. Let me say that again. And what I'm excited about now is the fact that Joseph actually nominated our next Changemaker. And when I spoke with her, it was easy to understand why. So she is like a ball of fire, a ball of energy. We're going to get her queued up here. But if you haven't met her, haven't heard her story, you are in for an absolute treat. Her name is Darlicia Menzie. I want to make sure I say that right. And she is a 2021 Changemaker. And here's her story. All right, we are back with Changemakers, and I'm not going to even attempt to mess this up. Actually, I am. Is it Darlicia?
Yes, it is. You did.
And you never said your name. I just have always had it in writing, and I said hello when we got online. So I did good. Darlicia Menzie
yes.
is our guest here, one of our 2021 Changemakers. Welcome and congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
So we've got an audience from all over the world, literally, if we do this right. And they're gonna be watching, and they're gonna have no idea who you are and what you do. So if you wouldn't mind, take 30 seconds and share a little bit about your background, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yes. Hey, everybody. I'm Darlicia Menzie, the CEO and owner of Fervent Servant. I help people to get excited about their lives. So Fervent Servant is all about living with intention and serving with passion. I am from Illinois. I currently reside here in Missouri. And I love, love, love to help people to figure out what life is all about and to love the life that they live.
That is, I mean, and that's a chore in and of itself.
Okay, now.
So you were actually nominated, and I got your name from one person and then got a second from someone else. So it was pretty cool. But you were nominated for your work specifically with women and helping to empower women. So if you could share a little bit about what you do, what you're doing to impact the community, and what inspired you to do it.
I love it. Thank you so much. So I love to get in front of women and girls, entrepreneurs, leaders, mothers. It really doesn't matter. People who feel like maybe they've lost a little bit of hope, or they've been overlooked, or they're not seen or valued or heard or understood. Those who have a dream and a goal in their heart and they're ready to put it in their hands and put it in their feet. I'm that person that gets to connect with them and speak right into their life and help them to really just take that next step. So I author books for women to really get into their mind and help them to know that they're worthy of good things, help them to know that there's something that they can contribute to this world, help them to know that there is more for them. I love starting with young girls and then working my way up. For those women who are in businesses, who are entrepreneurs, to not just see themselves as businesses or as moms or as wives or whatever, but to see themselves as women first and let that contribute to every role that they play and that they serve in. And then I host a weekly spiritual training academy for women who are looking to really develop in their spiritual life. And so teaching them how to really apply the word of God and how to really own their power, own their voice, and own their choices. And so that's the way that I mostly get to contribute to the community around me. And I absolutely love it.
That is fantastic. And So with what you're doing, you know, a lot of people may say, well, that's your business, but you're active in a lot of networking groups and you go out and you help to empower women in your community outside of your practice. And I think that's what makes people change makers, is you can love what you do and you can do it really well. But when you go above and beyond and you're out there impacting, volunteering your time and your resources to help, I think that's just amazing. Do you have any particular success stories or any, you know, maybe the struggles might be better from your perspective of what you've gone through, just trying to chase your dream and get there?
Yeah, there's plenty of both, honestly. I would say one of the greatest struggles that I've experienced is understanding that I really have something that people want and that people need. I was one who really dealt with looking to the left and to the right, comparing myself to everybody else around me, to where I never really focused on what I could contribute. And so there was always like this dissatisfaction that was just living inside of me, and there's insecurities that rose to the surface, and it really stifled my progression, being able to move forward. And so even thinking about why do I do what I do? Why do I get out in the community? Why do I love women so much? It's because we all have something to offer. And so the struggle that I've overcome that I don't want you to have to deal with is to know that you have something to offer. It doesn't matter if it looks like the market is oversaturated. It doesn't matter if somebody does what it looks like it's just like you. It's never going to be just like you because they're not delivering it how you would deliver it. And so if I can help you in that area, don't struggle where I struggle. Just know that there's a place for you. And then many successes is that whatever you produce, know that it's something that's coming from your heart. Like every time I wrote a book, created a resource, did a video, anytime that I created a course or a class, I'm like, what? How is this even possible? Because I didn't go to school for this. This wasn't something that, you know, I degreed my way into. This was just something that was burning on the inside of me. And so if I can offer another word of encouragement for you, there's something burning on the inside of you. There's a fervor that's on the inside of you that the world needs. Somebody needs you. And so celebrate your wins. Celebrate your wins and learn from every experience that you have, whether it's pleasurable or unpleasurable. You can take something away from that for sure.
That's amazing. And I love the way you delivered that. No pun intended, no play on words. But it really was. It seemed genuine and authentic. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they find you?
Yeah, so my website is darliciamenzi.com. Anything and everything that is attached to me, you will find it there. And that's just darliciamenzi.com.
And for those of you that are watching the screen, her name is right there. So you should be able to find it. But okay. And the last piece of advice I'd like to get from you is for those that may see you and feel inspired to do something. Maybe they feel compelled to help other women, or maybe they feel compelled to help other men, depending upon their circumstance and situation. But they say, you know what? I don't have the time that you have, or I don't have the drive right now that you have, but I really want to do something. How would you advise them to get started doing something?
I would advise you to figure out why you want to do what it is that you want to do. And once you figure that out, there's going to be nothing that gets in your way. Value every moment that you have. I was still working a full-time job before I ever started what it is that I have going on now. And now I have the pleasure of being able to do it full-time. But there was nothing that got in my way because I knew why I was doing it. I wanted to become what I needed. I wanted to become who I needed. And so my encouragement to you is to get started. It doesn't matter the amount of money you have, the amount of exposure you have, whether you have a platform or not. I had none of those things, honestly. I just jumped on what was available to me using the resources that I had, free social media, and I just started doing it. And I perfected it from there, and I'm getting better, and I continue to develop and grow from there. And I connected with others, you know, who are doing what I want to do and who do what I do. And then those who want to do what I'm doing, connect with all of those spheres and continue to perfect your craft.
That's great and amazing. So thank you so much for being with us. Congratulations on being the first ever class of Changemakers that we have released. So much. I'm going to send it back to my co-host, Larry Cohn. Larry, take us away.
So, like I said, I did not see that interview until just now, but I remember Jim getting off the the call with her and saying, "Oh my God, Larry, wait till you see this
She's
lady.
so
She
high
is like,
energy.
right, fired up." Now I know what you mean. Like I'm fired up. I love so much of what she said. She has such passion, such heart. But a couple takeaways for me are just, don't look to the left, don't look to the right. So many times we're taking score, looking what other people are doing. Look inward and make every experience work for you, the pleasurable ones, the non-pleasurable ones. And I think, at the Jim and Larry team, that's why we're doing this. We have a concept called mastering the spin, which is similar to the pleasurable and unpleasurable experience, whatever it is, master that spin. And Darlisha has certainly articulated that tonight, and I'm looking forward to meeting up with her in person since she's right here in St. Louis.
Yeah, she was. It was really fun talking to her because she brought an authenticity to her energy.
She did.
And a lot of times people get fired up, and you're like, "Well, what are you fired up about?" Like, and she was like, you could tell she's fired up about life and just living, and her contribution to the community and the other people that she's working with. It's really, really quite fun to watch. And
for sure.
Yeah, we received a question, and I want to tell everyone that we will address the question in between the next video. So after this one, before the next one, we'll address this. And the question was from a gentleman named Greg Purdy, and he said he messaged me on here saying he was confused, and then messaged me privately and said, "I don't know why Jim and Larry are doing this, and I don't know exactly what it is that your business does. And I want to let you know that we're going to address that for you here in just a little bit." But that's the lead in. That's all we're going to talk about for right now. And I'm going to let Larry cue up our next segment.
Yeah. So the next gentleman, he is also from St. Louis. And what really inspired me about his story, my passion is working with youth and working with the kids. And this gentleman works with the youth in St. Louis. He not only works with the public schools here in St. Louis, but he has a background in theater and dance, and he parlayed his own love of theater and dance to share that with some of the inner city students here in St. Louis and some of the disadvantaged students as an expression of art, and as give them the ability to express themselves through theater and through dance. So his name is Kevin Lee. Let's hear Kevin's story.
All right, we are back. More Changemakers21 coming up right now. In fact, we are joined by a very special guest, Mr. Kevin Lee. How are you doing, Kevin?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I am doing great. I'm really excited to have you on here. Some of the work that you're doing is amazing. And when you were nominated, I had never heard, just being honest, I had never heard of you or your organization. And that is why I think this work that Revitalize is doing is so important. And I'm really honored to be on their board and part of the project. But there's so many unsung heroes out there. And I think you might have even used that word, maybe not those words, but something like your story needs to be told. And I'm excited to be one of the people that get to do that here today. So can you tell everybody who you are first and foremost?
Yeah, so first, I'm Kevin Lee. I'm the assistant director for my organization called Stomp the World. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about me and my background?
All right. Yeah, that'd be great. Like who are you and why you got involved with this?
All right, so I work in education. I've been to about 3 different school districts. I worked for a preschool. And one of the reasons why I got involved in Stomp the World is because I started thinking of when I was a child how I wish there was organizations like we are, where we create educational and life experiences outside the classroom for kids who don't have the resources. And so there was nothing like that for me to get involved in. And so that's why I'm very passionate about the work I do. And being an educator, I see what kids need. And something that I started noticing is there's a more need for out of the classroom experiences. And so, we can do everything in the classroom, but it's it has to be more than just in the classroom. Some kids don't know that they have more than what's in their environment. And so that's one of the reasons why I got involved. Because as I said, I was a kid who wished I had these experiences. I grew up around gang and drug violence. And so school was my outlet. However, not every kid has that. And so I think with the work we do, we create that experience for these kids to show them that they have more than what's around them.
That's great. And you touched on it a little bit, but I really want to drill down a little bit if I could. Why is that so important to you? So I guess there's that old song, I can't remember. It's what happened was. So I want your what happened was. So what caused you to want to take action? Because I think that's a big thing. So many people have things that happen and it can be crippling to them or it can shut them down, but not you. You saw something or something happened and I don't know what it is. So none of this is like pre-scripted, but typically something happens that causes you to want to take action. And I'm curious what that was for you, if there was such a thing.
So for me, I mean, as I stated, I grew up around drug and gang violence, and I just knew I wanted more than that. And so, I mean, I've watched some of my friends get killed because they were part of gangs, and just like family members get killed by drugs, and it's just things like that. I knew I wanted more, and so when I say that the work that Stomp the World um, does that for kids, it's like I know that some of these kids that we do this for, they go through that. Not saying that every kid does, but some of those kids, and so I just am happy to be able to give them that sense of hope, if that makes sense. And so that's why I really got involved in it, because I knew how my childhood was. And I feel like there's not a day where you turn on the news and you're not hearing about some kind of killing or shooting in the St. Louis area. And so it's heartbreaking that that is what a lot of our kids hear and know. And so I am just trying to be that person that continues to show them, look, if you want more, you can have more. If you want to get out of your environment, you can make it happen. Because I myself, I did. I grew up around it. However, I did not let it consume me. I went off to college, got my bachelor's and my master's. So it's possible, and you don't have to be a product of your environment. So that's why I'm very passionate about what I do.
That's awesome. And this program, this event that we're doing is called Changemakers. And for me, what I've just seen of you, and as soon as I found out about you, I started digging a little. But you're involved in a lot of different things where you're attempting to make a difference, and you volunteer your time, and you get very, very passionate about some of the things that you're doing. Can you share with our audience some of the other things that you're involved in?
So not only this organization, I work in education, as I've stated before. I'm also a religious school teacher for my Temple Emmanuel. And I volunteer my time for a lot of different things because I'm just passionate about kids. Like everything I do, it's for youth. And the way I look at it is our youth, they're our future. And so if we can educate them and give them the resources to set them up to be successful, I feel like at the end of the day, that's what's going to make a difference.
It's so true. Do you have any particular hurdles that you encountered when starting your organization or volunteering your time? Some struggles?
Definitely had a lot of struggles. Funding is one, but you know, like I said, I just believe that if I give, eventually something's gonna come along and help us take off. But I mean, I volunteer my time. There's some days where I wake up, I go into work, I leave work, go straight to my organization's office, and I'm there tutoring, hanging out with kids if it's a Wednesday night for our teen chat. And it's like I do that even though sometimes I don't get home till like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But it's like I'm a firm believer in do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And so that's how I look at it. I love the work that I do, so it doesn't feel like work, if that makes sense. It's more like a hobby. And knowing that I'm making a difference, that's something that keeps me going and keeps me wanting to drive forward with this organization.
That's amazing. And I know that there's going to be some kid, some adult, some young man, some young woman, some young person that heard your story today and feels inspired to do something, but maybe they're not out with their bachelor's and master's degree yet. Maybe they're still in the thick of things, but they want to be involved. They want to do something. What advice in our last 30 seconds or so would you give to those people that are looking to make a difference and maybe don't know how or where to start, but want to have an impact?
I say definitely look within your community. Search to see like ways you can help within your community. I mean, we're always looking for volunteers to tutor. We're always looking for volunteers to help us with things. Like we have a big project that we're about to get started, and we're looking for volunteers to help with that. So I say if you want to be part of that community, just reach out to us. We have a website, www.stomptheworld.org. You can visit us, reach out to us there. And I mean, we're always around. We plan on being around even if things get bad. Like through COVID, we stuck around and we put movement videos out there for people. And so we're just an organization. We want to help our community any way we can.
That's great. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on here. Congratulations on your nomination and being a 2021 Changemaker for Revitalize. You're part of the inaugural class. This is the first time we've done this, and it'll be an every year thing, but you're one of the first. And again, honored to know you. Thanks so much for being on here. Guys, we'll be back with more Changemakers right after this. Stay tuned. We got a lot more to come. Thanks.
I loved that story. And, Jim, my passion for kids and youth. So it really touched me. And, he came from a background of drugs and violence. And not only did he, as he said, not get consumed by it, but he's now giving back to kids in that same community so that they don't get consumed by it. It's so important. I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how impressed I am by the work that Kevin is doing and some of the other change makers here about how they're taking their past and then, moving it forward so that other people may not have to go through some of the challenges that they did. I can't hear you. You're muted, I think.
Thanks for saying that before I got all the way through what I was going to say, which you did last night.
I know.
So, we're adapting and learning. It's great. So listen, there's so many people on here that their stories inspire and might make you feel like you want to do something. And so I'm just going to say, one of the things that you can do is you can help us tell more stories. So you can make a donation to Revitalize, and you can even name 1, 2, 5, 10, all of the change makers that we have. And a portion of your donation will go to benefit them. And Jim and Larry will match the donation dollar for dollar up to $5,000. So we're really looking to help the people that feel inspired to make a difference. And Larry, I'm going to flip the script back now, because Greg Purdy asked, why are we doing this? And I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, what's the reason why you're doing this? And Carol, to answer your question, the Revitalize website is scrolling across the bottom of the screen. It's a revitalizedworld.org. And you can go to revitalizedworld.org/changemakers to get information on here. You can also go to the jimandlarryteam.com. And this is actually streaming live on that website. And there is a donation link to Revitalize right on there. But so Larry, why did we want to get involved in this project? I'm going to let you start, and then we can just talk about it for a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the reason that we started the Jim and Larry team and the reason we wanted to get involved in this project, again, goes back to our past. So I'd just like to share a little bit about my past and why I chose to be involved. Several years ago, I fell into drug addiction, and from drug addiction led to homelessness, and really at a place where I didn't know if I wanted to or if I was going to end up living or dying. And somewhere along that, I just made a decision that my current situation, meaning my homelessness and my addiction to drugs, was going to be a really good part of my future story. And I didn't know why it was going to be, and I didn't know the hows, but I just made a decision that it was. And once I set my mindset to that, slowly things began to come to me to lead me out of the world that I was in and into a different place. And when I got to that different place, when I became stable enough, I wanted to reach back to people who might be experiencing homelessness or addiction or any type of life, crappy situation, and let them know that wherever you are in life is just a moment in time. It's just where you are now, and that your current reality is a sum composite of your previous thoughts, actions, and beliefs, which leads to your reality. So another way of looking at it or saying it, Jim, is your reality is really past news. But the reason so many people continue to repeat the reality is because they're looking at where they are. And the more you look at where you are, the more you produce more of where you are. So you've kind of got to put a period at the end of where you are and start a new chapter. But it's easier said than done. So at the Jim and Larry team, we have several programs: the Art of the Pivot, Mastering the Spin, the Shifted Reality, where we work and inspire with school children, with businesses, with individuals, pretty much anyone who will listen to us, to let them know that wherever you are is just no more than that. And we have developed techniques and skills to get people to a different point. And so we thought, wouldn't it be great to highlight other people in communities around the world that are doing something similar to what we're doing? And I think that's where the Changemakers concept births from.
Yeah, and during COVID, it's no secret, we've talked about it, we lost a business, lost close to $1 million from that business. And we continued to reinvent and redefine ourselves. And one of the things that I would say is a clear definer of us is resiliency. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from people on that, including some, just I'm going to be real, raw, and authentic here, including some haters, right? A dog never barks at a parked car. So I've had my fair share of haters. Larry's had his fair share of haters. We had a civil war at one point in time with various people that we were working with within Revitalize, as we were looking to rebrand and take the organization in a different direction. And all I'm going to say is it's okay, right? Mm-hmm. It's all okay. And I felt like it was really important for us to get involved with this because we were able to, thank you, Dre Montez, my man. I love you. Miss you, man. So it was really important for us to share the message of resiliency in a time where parts of the world, like our psychology, our beliefs, our way of life, are under attack, right? Everything is sheltered, restricted, challenged. And people came to us during the COVID time because we're traveling all over the world. We're building a business during COVID. And they're like, why aren't you staying home? And there's work to do, right? And a lot of the people on here, they couldn't stay home. Caitlin, yesterday, she couldn't stay home. There were people out there that she had to go out and support. Rich Todd couldn't stay home. He had to go out and go to the homes and help the people. We're going to hear from a gentleman, Michael Robinson, who couldn't stay home on the coldest day of the year because he had people to protect. The people that are change makers, they can't stay home. They won't stay home. They won't be muffled or restricted or hindered in any way. They just go do what they have to do. And I think the world would be a better place if we could convey that message, that belief system, and put that into something tangible. So what's the tangible that we built with Jim and Larry? So we have a business that we literally travel all over the world. We put on these workshops. In January, we release a program called the Inner Circle. And the Inner Circle will be where people can come along with us. crazy trips, adventures, excursions. We buy businesses, we coach business owners. We're involved in a lot of different things, but the bottom line is everything that we're involved in is about developing, creating, and maintaining the right mindset for the situation that you're in. And there's always two ways to look at things. Choose the most favorable one, and the rest will become less relevant.
Right.
And that's what we focus on, and that's what we do. And Greg, I don't know if I answered your question, but the reason why we're involved started back during the Mike Brown situation for me, when some reporter that no doubt was not in St. Louis, standing in front of a green screen, went online and said, I'm in the inner city of Ferguson. And for those of you that know anything about St. Louis, you probably know about Ferguson. You probably heard some things, but what you won't realize is the tallest building in Ferguson is a house, right? There is no inner city of Ferguson. And the original organization, Revitalized St. Louis, which is what was the parent company of what is now Revitalized, or the original entity, Larry and I were in Colombia, Cartagena, South America. And we told somebody we were from St. Louis, and they said, ooh, isn't that dangerous there? And I'm like, okay, listen, we're in the cocaine capital of South America. We are in the cartel capital of South America. And you're asking me if St. Louis is dangerous. And I realized we had a responsibility. And like Kevin Moore said yesterday, that means the ability to respond, to paint the world in a different light, paint St. Louis in a different light. And more importantly, there's so many people out there, like the men and women that we've mentioned before, and the rest that you will hear from tonight, that are doing great things. And I don't need to hear why Trump is an awful president or Biden's an awful president, or why the economy is terrible or it's great. We need to hear about the people that are doing the good things. And there was just no platform, aside from what BJ Murphy put together in Kinston, North Carolina, one of our change makers. There's no platform where that was being told. So we have the ability to respond, and so we shall.
For sure.
So anyway,
that leads us to our next change maker.
Yes, I'm going to let you cue up this man.
Thanks.
I love him to death, and I'm excited to hear his story.
Yeah, so we met him, as Jim said, when we had our business, which was called NextCore, and he came in off the street, and he just was so passionate about the neighborhood in which he lived in, and had so many different ideas on how to make it better. And he would not keep quiet. This was not about what was in his pocketbooks, but it was about what was in his spirit and his heart. And he just went to parks. He did cleanups. He spoke to anyone that would listen to him. He went door to door. He just was passionate about building a better neighborhood. So let me not say anything else and introduce Mr. C. Sharp.
All right. C. Sharp, how are you, sir?
What's happening, big homie? I'm good.
I am great, man. I'm so glad you're here with us. Welcome back to Changemakers, everybody. So we are here with one of the gentlemen that originally inspired us to create the Changemakers series. And I don't say that lightly. This young man that I'm going to introduce you to is the definition of one person sold out to their convictions can make a huge difference in the community they serve. So let's start with, who is this dude on the other end of the camera from me? Who are you?
Man, my name is C. Sharp, former hip hop artist of the year, song of the year winner, and the ambassador for the city of St. Louis. Proud father and just a community advocate to the fullest.
Yeah, and you do a lot of different things in the community. Can you give people just a sample example of some of the things you do day in and day out to make an impact in your community?
Man, the biggest thing that we can do every day is, first, we got to have the blessing to be able to wake up, and then, be able to look around and, see what needs to be done. So, I've just been able to organize things, for Christmas, back to school, things in the park, things to help facilitate public safety matters, to help get those conversations and stuff like that going, bringing solutions that could potentially help, cut into some of the, devastation that we see going on. I mean, I don't really think about it as what I can do. I just try to figure out what I can be a part of, and if there's something that I can be a part of to either help it get over the table or to help it, get more notoriety, more acknowledgement, then, I just want to be a part of it.
That's great. And you are. So a little bit of my own personal history with you. You and I met, almost 4 years ago now. You had events in our building where Revitalize is headquartered, where Next Court was headquartered, where Jim and Larry was headquartered. And you came down and you did a toy drive that raised hundreds of toys that you were able to give away to kids. We have those pictures. It's just been kind of an amazing thing to watch you do what you do. But I've got to ask you, there's a lot of people in the neighborhoods just like you that don't do the things that you do. So what has inspired you to do this? Why do you do it?
Well, sometimes, it can come from a space to where, like, damn, I wish somebody would have done this for me when I was that age. It can come from that space, or, it can come from, somebody giving you an idea and they know that they may not have the ability to kind of get it over the table. But if they gave you the idea, then, you have the ability to manifest it. So, sometimes it can just come from other people, and people use you as the canvas, that to draw on. Sometimes, you can see a dire need, and, you can just have the ability to really actuate and cultivate the community behind doing something immediately and doing something just expeditionally. So,
yeah, let's talk about that for just a second, because one of the things that I saw you do is there was a lady trying to get a community garden together.
Yeah.
She was really struggling, and all of a sudden you stepped in. Can you share what happened there?
Well, the biggest thing about it was youth and is so necessary, when it comes to the change and stuff like that needs to be made. Just our energy and the things that we're able to bring to the table just naturally, our strength and charisma. It goes a little unnoticed, and people don't realize how much youth actually can change something. But yeah, that garden, man, was one of my first experiments when I got into the neighborhood. There was a lady named Marilyn, who was trying to organize the garden, and she didn't know anybody. She didn't know anybody to help with any funding. She didn't know anybody to help move any tree stumps. She didn't know anybody to help move any bricks. So, to her, let her tell it. She'll say, well, he was a godsend. He not only took on some of the work himself, but he also helped facilitate getting me in some of the spaces to get the LRAD to the property itself. And then, meeting, people like you and Larry, for potentially, throwing some monetary, funding behind it. And there was an idea that we actually came up with as a committee to self-invest. And everybody at this table should be able to put in at least $100. So instead of going and asking the community for $1,200, it'd be easier to go and ask the community for $400, because of the investment that each person has made at this table, So I mean, I just think that people can kind of get away from the things that they have to do, the sacrifices and the input that they have to make before they can convince somebody else to support their dream. So that's the biggest thing about it. And it's become a space, for people to have meetings or do yoga or just go and enjoy some, insects and butterflies and, stuff like that. And it's just always something that you can drive past and be like, you know what, we did that. We did that right there. So
fantastic. Now, I'm assuming you've encountered some challenges along the way with some of the things you've done. I know you've been involved in some controversial topics, and people cast a lot of shade on you sometimes, but you always stand true to your convictions. You hold to what you believe. And I'm going to just ask you to speak to those that may be inspired from what they heard from you here today, that say, you know, I want to do something. What advice can you give them about the challenges that they're going to encounter? And what advice can you give in general?
The biggest advice I would say, man, is that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, nobody comes complete. You know, you become complete through the journey itself. So,
Right.
you know, what you have to do is, you know, first of all, you got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself and your ability to get the money you need, get the resources that you need, or, you know, make the time to go out there and you know, get people involved, then you're going to have a hard time convincing anybody else. So the first thing you can do is just believe in yourself. And then the second thing is, when you do have people that believe in you, you know, assume leadership, you know, assume that leadership role, you know, keep up with them, you know, keep them on task, you know, keep them on point. And if there's ever a lack in something that's going on, then you know, need to assume the role and you know, foot the bill. You know, I mean, there's never a point to where you're done working. No matter how many people you have surrounding around you, there's never a point to where you're done working. So always remember that you know, you're the engine behind this whole thing, you know. And without that engine, it doesn't matter what type of body you've built around it, it's not gonna go anywhere. You know, you're the engine behind it. So that's just something that I've held, you know, near and dear to me, as far as just knowing that if I don't do it, you know, either it's not going to get done or it's not going to get done at a time to where it could have made a difference. So, you know, I just, it's a personal responsibility. You know, that's one thing I would say. Like, make it a personal responsibility. You know, make it something that, you know, you look yourself in the mirror every day and challenge yourself to achieving it.
That's great. Well, listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. I thank you for being a part of Changemakers21. You are, for me, an example of, you don't have big corporate backing. You don't have an organization that you form doing it. You're just out there pounding the streets every day, doing the deal, setting a good example. So I'm glad to know you. I'm glad we had a chance to have our paths cross and that they continue to intertwine during life's journey. So, C, thanks for being on here, man.
I appreciate you, baby.
All right. Bye, everybody. Next up.
All right. C Sharp. I mean, what a incredible individual. Hopefully those of you that don't know him were able to get, you know, enough of a flavor. I think you did, of just his passion, his love for St. Louis. And as Jim said, no, you know, sponsorship, no nonprofit, no money, just his heart and his vision. So he really, to me, exemplifies what a change maker is.
Yeah, and just to add to that, he also really tackles controversial topics with no fear.
He does.
You know, when people are protesting things that don't make sense, he's the first one to go out there and stand up for that. Was instrumental in the Protest That movement that is big and prevalent here in St. Louis. Really involved in crime reduction, just an all-around champion for people and their rights. And it's really cool to see him featured with the 44 other change makers for 2021.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, I want to take a second, Jim, and just honor you. This production has been going on for a couple months, and all the interviews took several weeks to compile them. And I was real ill, just was in and out of the hospital. I'm not sure what was wrong with me. Thank God I'm fine now. But a partnership, people think of a partnership, they think of a partnership as 50-50. But I got some great advice. It was from my dad years back. And he said a partnership, when you look at it, is rarely ever 50-50. It's 80-20, it's 70-30, it's 60-40. Throughout the end of the term of the business or the partnership, it's probably 50-50, but never any one moment in time is it 50-50. So Jim, you were like, 98-2 for that. for the last several weeks. And I just want to tell you that I'm so grateful that you persevered so that we could get this production out on time. And you're an amazing friend and amazing partner to have on this journey.
Oh, thanks, Larry.
Yeah, wanted everyone to know that.
Well, I appreciate it. And there have been times where it's been exactly the opposite. So I respect that. Let's hope the averages average out, so to speak.
Sure. Sure. So we have
yeah, before we get into that, we wanted to do this at the top of the hour and totally forgot, but no time like the present. Want to let everybody know what's coming up next for the Changemakers. So we just invited several Changemakers to join a private LinkedIn group. There is a Facebook group already up and running, and this is an opportunity for them to collaborate, support one another, share their dreams and initiatives, and really share in the struggles and maybe work together on some projects. But additionally, beginning on August the 9th and every Monday and Wednesday and Friday through November 17th, we will be releasing one of the stories of the Changemakers, some that you've already heard. Remember, the first 33 will be featured here in this 3-day production. 12 new Changemakers will be sprinkled in throughout that. But we're going to share their story. Then beginning November the 19th, you will have an opportunity to vote. And there'll be a couple categories. We'll release the details, but there will be a Changemaker of the Year for sure. There will be several other things. There will be some monetary awards for the Changemakers to continue in their mission, as well as additional opportunities to collaborate and partner. So it really is going to be a year-long event for these Changemakers. And, you know, I'm excited to be a part of that. And then I'll take it from here to cue it up unless you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I just want to say on the Revitalize website and on the Jim and Larry website, which are scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you have an opportunity to nominate a Changemaker as well, because we will be doing this in 2022. So if you know someone in your community who's doing some amazing things, that's that spirit and passion, just go to our website and let us know about them.
Perfect. And the next one's up to me, right, Larry?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So I want to kind of take lead and introduce this individual. So I first met him. He was actually my son's 8th grade football coach, and he's a hard-nosed guy that doesn't take any grief from anybody. He's really really an amazing person. But then I got him to know him in the business sense. And the gentleman I'm going to introduce, Nick Atkins, was instrumental in helping us find people to support during Streamathon, which raised roughly $100,000 in money and services that we gave to the small business community locally. And Nick was really instrumental in helping us find people that needed our help and that we could help. And then I reached out to him again for the Small Business Independence Day celebration, which was about raising awareness for small business owners that were in need at the time. This was last July in the midst of the pandemic. And he was quick with names to lend support, to make connections. And then for Changemakers, I reached out to him again. And of course, he was quick to respond with names and people that he thought would be a good Changemaker. And we actually connected with several of them. One of his nominations was actually chosen as a Changemaker. So Nick Atkins is just an amazing guy, very selfless. And you're going to hear his story right now. All right, we're back for Changemakers21. I'm here with Nick Atkins. How are you doing, Nick?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, Jim.
Yeah, so Nick has been involved in the first 2 events we did, Streamathon, which was an event in support of small business, and he was involved in the Small Business Independence Day celebration that we did as Next Core, and then now this event with Revitalize. He was so active in helping us find people that were community leaders, movers and shakers, small businesses that were doing good and potentially needed the awareness and the recognition. So we thought it only appropriate when we announced Changemakers21 that one of the people that is a Changemaker and helped others be recognized as such should be featured on the show. So Nick, nobody in Australia or Europe or Africa or South America, wherever they happen to be watching this, knows who you are. So can you share a little bit about you, your background, what you do for a living, your family, that kind of stuff?
So thanks, Jim. Yeah. So my name's Nick Atkins, 42 years young, this year. And my background is I've been in the industry formerly known as the Yellow Pages for 18 years. And we made a pivot, in our industry. We made a pivot towards small business software, helping local businesses win. Far too often we see all these huge corporations that you feel like are getting the customers. You see that, lots of big businesses are popping up all over the place. And it's like, what about, the local community? What about your neighbor that's running a business? So at Thrive, we created a small business platform just to help local business be able to provide a world-class customer experience. And there's nothing, that I'm more proud of, outside of my family, just to be a part of, just seeing, the help that, we're providing out there in the community. And again, making sure that those local businesses, survive and thrive. In regards to family, I have 3 boys, 9, 5, and 2, a beautiful wife that I've been married to for 7 years. And I don't know if I can say this anymore. I truly love what I do. I'm a sales trainer. So it's, I'm out there, every day in terms of coaching, providing guidance, advice for our folks that are out there, trying to help local business win. I mean, there is just no other way to put it. Our goal is to prop up, support, advise, and help remove roadblocks from local business so they can do what they want to do best, right? They don't want to be doing paperwork. They don't want to be writing up all these manual things, doing all these automated tasks, right? They want to be honing in at their craft. And that's what we try and do, is just get time back in their day.
Awesome. So I want to talk now. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your company and where you are and how you got there. But now I want to talk about you, because it's one thing to promote a company, and you do that and you do it really well. But you act in promotion of so many others. Each time we've done one of these events, I reached out to you. Who do you know that might be that person that we need to talk to? And let me just share with everyone how I got to know Nick. So Nick also works as a football coach, and defensive, right, Nick?
Yeah. I dabble in the offense, but I mean, defense is just where you could just, grit your teeth and just cut loose and just get so excited and amped up with the boys.
Yeah, and I've seen that from you. Nick actually is just a phenomenal coach, really inspires and brings out the best in the kids. And I've seen that firsthand and seen the impact that it can have on those young men and women, and what they're able to do, and how that transcends and I guess becomes even bigger than the game that they play, because those are life skills that they're teaching. And then on top of that, to see, when I asked, hey, who do you know, the level of detail, hey, this person does this in the community and they're involved in that, and this is why they're a change maker. It was just so telling to me, because that's not part of your scope of work, right? That's not in your business plan. It's not part of your compensation package. You're just involved in the community. And we started a Facebook group, maybe a year and a half ago, right at the beginning of COVID, that is now morphed into like a small business and entrepreneurs, small business leaders and support Facebook group. And there's over 1,000 members in there, and Nick is highly active in there. He's always giving advice and helping. And I've not once, and hopefully this doesn't get you in trouble at work, but I've never once heard you say or seen a comment in there that says, that's why you need to talk to my company. Mm-hmm. It's not about self-promotion, and you don't do that. You're really involved. So let me ask you this. Yeah. Aside from being bred into you with your organization, why do you think the small businesses and the small business owners are so important? Why is that so crucial for you?
I mean, these are your neighbors, right? These are the people to where you coach their kids. These are people that you know. It's not just a face. It's not just a huge corporation. Those are people behind there. So something that was really important to my wife and I, and it's no disrespect to, any of the folks that, own a franchise or a major business or anything like that, but we made it a conscious decision that when we decided to eat out on nights or utilize curbside, we were going local, right? We were going local because they don't have, those millions of dollars backing them to say, hey, we're going to help prop you up until we're out of this. Those are those folks that, we're struggling, just like each and every person, in some form or fashion, whether it was, being closeted up and not being able to get out, whether it was financially, whatever the case may be. So we want to do anything we could to just support, the folks that we run into every day, right? We don't run into, the CEOs of major corporations or Fortune 500 or Fortune 100 companies. Who you do run into are people, that are running that local deli or running that local restaurant. And I think it just opened us up just to a lot more variety and food. I'm going to do a plug here. I just have to do it. There's this place, Mello's Pizzeria, that's connected right to Blue City Deli. If you haven't tried it, it is phenomenal.
And that's in St. Louis, right, Nick?
That's in St. Louis. It's delicious, and we make it a thing to where once a month we try and make our way out there to go pick it up. I bring it back, and it's just phenomenal. I don't know if I would have found that if we hadn't been kind of searching like local restaurants and stuff like that in the area during the pandemic.
That's great, man. And those are the kind of things, like, I know that Mello's isn't one of your clients. It's just someone you found and you're supporting them. So the life of I've talked to a couple of coaches. It seems like coaches seem to have the mindset that we're looking for, and they're always involved in a million things, but I know your schedule is crazy. Just trying to hook up with you for this interview was redonkulous. It was crazy. We couldn't get it in there. So you are involved in a lot of things and you give back in a lot of ways, and you have a busy schedule. So I probably imagine you have somewhere in your mindset or mantra, no excuses. And I've heard you yell at the kids, or I mean, coach the kids and say that. But so what would you say to somebody that's maybe hearing your story and they're like, man, I can do that little bit. I couldn't do some of the things that I've heard other change makers do, but I can support local. I can do those things. How would you advise them to even get started being more active and involved in their community? What's the key steps?
I mean, I think the key step is you gotta take that first step. It's set a goal in terms of what you want to do and then go do it, right? If it's, I want to frequent local business a little bit more often, at least once a week. So instead of me going to McDonald's or Pizza Hut or Domino's or something like that, I'm going to find a local business, to put my money towards. If I want to volunteer, it's hopping on Google and finding ways that you can volunteer or contribute. I think it's that first step that you have to take, because a lot of times it's, I'll do that tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. And by the time we look up, it's December 31st, and now you run out of time to get it done this year. So if you don't write it down in terms of what you want to achieve from a goal perspective, or what you want to contribute. I mean, one of the biggest things that we got in our house now is we have a calendar on our board. So where we know, hey, here's what's going on for the month of July. It's all written down. It's color coded. That way there's no confusion as to, like, for today, right? I'm like, board was clear. We're good, right? It's clean sailing. I don't have any other commitments that I need to worry about. Just got done with a training class, but no other commitments. But I think it's just saying, am I going to do it? Same thing with, am I going to start working out? Am I going to walk more? It's, are you going to do it, or are you going to keep putting it off? And I know that's probably a little bit different than contributing, but it's just narrow it down and find something that you want to do to contribute in the community, and then go do it. As you know, my biggest thing, whether it is, connecting you with some folks that I think are doing some great things in the community. My biggest thing is of course, like, I love giving back to these kids and coaching football. I mean, that's one of the things where I find time to carve out to make sure I can be there, contribute, help, support, be a positive influence, on those guys, and not tell them they're doing something great if they're not, right? I think that's really important. I think nowadays sometimes it's, hey, you did that really good. And I'm not talking about the words you're giving your best effort. If you're not, you're doing a disservice to somebody by telling them you did great, right? When they know they, kind of did it halfway, they did it halfway, but you're like, way to go. You're not helping anybody. So it's,
Right.
I'm going to get on you, but I'm going to hug you too. Right. So you're going to know that I care. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing. You're just going to know that I care. And last thing I guess I'll say on this piece here is we've gotten lots of gift cards. Like, I think you talked to Denny, like we had gift cards, and stuff like that to Main and Mill. And what I wanted to, what we started or thought about doing during the pandemic is saving my gift cards, right? I didn't save my gift cards until we were kind of use my gift cards until we were out of the pandemic, because I wanted, to help with an influx of new cash that was coming in. So he could keep, his employees employed. He can keep, running and doing like these little side things in terms of letting them shop at the restaurant. And I know this isn't about Denny, but I mean, it's just like the things that, I didn't even know that he was doing when I was, kind of connecting you guys just blew me away. And,
For sure.
And it's, I think being around people like that just motivates you to do more. I think that's part of what it is.
Yeah, I think so too, man. And I'm really glad you're able to be on here and make time. Again, I think you're an example of what a change maker could and should be. Not only are you inspiring the youth to be better, you're giving them honest, critical feedback, teaching them values, and then supporting your community and making a difference. I can't tell you how many businesses I've been introduced to by Nick that I now do business with. And I know I'm not the only one. So you are a change maker in the small business community in St. Louis and now globally with your expansion. So congrats on your success. Congratulations on being the first class of Changemakers 2021. And we'll be back with more Changemakers after this, guys. Thanks again, Nick, for being here.
Appreciate it.
More to come. Stay tuned.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, great. Love the interview and loved that he just tells it like it is. Like he said, sometimes, you don't need to sugarcoat it. You tell it like it is. And Nick has been, he's kind of like been maybe like a field coordinator for us. He goes out, he's really helped us, bring a lot of people into not only this program, but other ones that we've done throughout the last couple of years. So hear you, Nick, and congratulations.
Yeah, he actually is an admin on our small business mindset group. So for all the small business owners that are listening, Nick is one of the guys that will help comment and provides advice and tutelage directly on there for you. So congratulations, Nick, on your nomination and your award. Well deserved.
Sure. Well, I'll lead into the next change maker. The next change maker is a gentleman. He's got he's executive director of a nonprofit here in St. Louis. Also, they do programs in Chicago. So St. Louis and Chicago. He really, I love what he does because again, it works with youth, but he takes inner city youth and he teaches them to learn and explore their natural environment. So they develop outdoor exploration and leadership skills. I'm not sure if he says it in this interview, but I remember one of the things that touched me was one of the students, was a teenager, took out, into the outdoors, and was the first time that he had ever seen or experienced lettuce. So it's so important for our youth to connect more with the earth and with their environment, and this gentleman helps facilitate it. So we introduce our next change maker.
All right, we're back with more change makers. How are you doing, Nadav?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here today, Jim.
Well, it's great to have you on. And like I told you, as we were kind of prepping to go live here, I couldn't think of doing a Changemaker event without highlighting you and your efforts. So we've got people from all over the world tuning in if we did a good job. But we've got people from all over the world tuning in, and most of them have no idea who Nadav is. So can you share a little bit about you, your name, your background, where you're from?
Yeah, so my name's Nadav Sprague. I am originally from Chicago, Illinois, currently living in New York City. However, I had the pleasure of living in St. Louis, Missouri for 7 years. When I was in St. Louis, I started a nonprofit called Gateway to the Great Outdoors, where we do environmental health, outdoor, and STEAM education for low-income middle and elementary schools. So each week we have mentors come into the classroom of these low-income public schools and then work with the students on their science curriculum, adding hands-on experiments that relate to environmental science. And then every month we take our students on monthly outdoor adventures, whether it's canoe tripping down the Mississippi River or overnight camping trips or hiking in local state parks. It's a lot of fun, and it's an amazing experience for our students, as a lot of them really haven't left a 5-block radius of their house and school. Within the past year, however, I moved to New York City, as I said, to start getting my PhD in environmental epidemiology, where I study how climate change and access to green space influences childhood health and educational disparities.
So that seems so rehearsed, but we didn't even talk about it. Like, man, you just like had it all down.
Yeah, no, that was not rehearsed. It was just definitely answered those questions before.
I totally get it. Well, when we were thinking of a change maker, we thought about your work with the children. I've personally seen some of the kids that you've worked with, just the videos, the success stories, talked with a lot of people that are involved in your programming and had personal relationships with them, where I became friends with a lot of your staff as they've come through your organization, and some of them have gone on to do different things. Some of them have gone on to run different offices for you. So you have offices, or locations, let me get this right, in St. Louis, Chicago, and New York?
Just St. Louis and Chicago, not New York.
Just St. Louis and Chicago.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yes, right now. We definitely, there's definitely gaps in environmental and outdoor education throughout the U.S. So it definitely is a model that we are looking to expand. But right now we're really focusing in Chicago and St. Louis and making our local organizations a lot stronger before going on to expanding to other cities.
Perfect. So, and when we talked about Changemakers, you really exemplified that. So that's why you were selected. So first of all, congratulations on being one of the 45 Changemakers nominated for this inaugural class. But tell us, Nadav, why you do what you do. Because there's a lot of things that you could do. You're a smart guy. You could go down many paths. Why this one?
So there's definitely many reasons why I do what I do. I grew up in the city of Chicago, where there are unfortunately a lot of really large educational disparities in the Chicago public school system. I was fortunate enough to get a really quality education, and during that time, I had a lot of learning disabilities. So that quality education really brought me to be where I am today. And I always kind of think about how fortunate I am to have been raised with such great education and how essential that is. So the educational gap has always been something that I'm really, really passionate about. And then additionally, I, since a young age, have always been quite the outdoorsman, and the environment has always been something so important to me. So I think those two major issues that the U.S. are facing right now with climate change and environmental sustainability, and kind of creating the next leaders of our future, in addition to kind of really tackling and addressing the educational gap and really focusing on that. So being able to kind of work on both of these issues in tandem and really create the next generation of environmental leaders is so important to me, as we're already starting to see the effects of climate change today. And we really need our young people to be extremely educated and ready to be leaders and really fight against the disparities that they face on a day-to-day basis.
That's great. Now, Nadav, just I don't know if you're going to have this number. And again, we didn't really prepare for all of the statistics or anything like that, but do you have a rough ballpark of how many young people have come through your program?
It's been already in the thousands. We started in 2016, and right now, well, during COVID-19, we stopped doing our in-person programming, obviously, and we did a Go and Grow program. So that we had a really large reach of delivering the kits. We reached over 2,000 students there, but
Wow.
our traditional program has gone way over 2,000 as well. And we typically have approximately 650 students per year who do the really in-depth program, the weekly programming and the monthly camping trips and adventures.
All right, so I'm going to ask you another question and put you on the spot. So when kids go into these things, they probably see things that they either had only imagined before or couldn't have imagined before. So what is the coolest reaction you've ever seen from a child going into something for the first time?
I mean, I don't know if there's been like a specific reaction, but a lot of the students are just so excited to go out and explore. And it's really great to see, because a lot of the times at first, since it is new experiences, at the beginning of the hike, they're really worried and timid and they don't want to like go off and like explore. But then within a 1 mile hike, then they start climbing up rocks and climbing trees and exploring and really getting their hands dirty. And from being scared to getting their sneakers muddy, then they like are full of mud by the end of the hike. And I think that's really, really the best experience. But it definitely is a lot of our students' first times doing a bunch of things, whether it's their first time swimming in a lake, first time hiking, first time we've had students for the first time have lettuce when we take them to farms. So
wow.
There's a lot
perspective, right?
No, definitely. So there's definitely a lot of new experiences that the students get to do. And the best part about it is, actually, this is the answer to the question. The best part about it.
I knew we'd get there.
Yeah, it just took a second. The best part about it is when students come to me and they say, the field trip that we went on Friday, on Saturday, I took my family there because it was so much fun. And so the fact that not only are these students getting to have these new experiences and enjoying it, but then they're also bringing their family into the mix, and they're bringing what they learn in school. They bring the activities home, whether it's planting vegetable seeds, and then also the field trips home, like going on a hike with their family. So really, I love it whenever students tell me that they now have engaged their family based on the GGO activities.
That's great. In the last 30 seconds that we have, I want to accomplish two things. Number one, tell people how to find you.
Yeah, so you can find us at gatewayoutdoors.org, or you can look us up on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And yeah, so those are the main ways to find us. Yeah.
Perfect. And then somebody somewhere is going to be inspired by what you've said on this interview today. So give your 10-second words of advice to somebody that might want to take action but don't even know where to begin. So just tell them what to do.
I mean, it's a little hard. If they ever want to contact me, they definitely can contact me. My email is my first name, nadav@gatewayoutdoors.org. So if you do want to contact me, feel free to send me an email. And I think the main thing is really kind of identifying what the need is and then working within the community that you want to address this need, and making sure that the community want to work with the community to make sure that that you're providing a service that they want and the way that they want it, I think is really important. And then never be afraid to ask for help. I think my favorite saying, and I always mess this saying up, is the squeaky wheel is the one to get oiled. So you got to be squeaky, you got to make noise, you got to ask for help in order to make a difference.
That's great. Well, congratulations again on being selected as a 2021 Changemaker. And I couldn't think of someone better.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you so much to Jim and Larry, who have been so helpful to GGO throughout the years.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. And you're such a great organization, and you're a great mentor and leader to all the kids. So we're honored to do it. Guys, stay tuned. We have a ton more Changemakers coming up. So stay with us for more. And we're going to go back to our co-host, Larry Cohn.
Nadav, one of my favorite people, he for a while Gateway to the Great Outdoors was housed out of NextCore, and we got to know him and his staff really well, and just an amazing group of dedicated individuals and serving kids who just never have an opportunity to get out and see nature. You know, it's so different from the way I grew up, but it's so important to have that relationship with the environment.
Yeah, and Nadav also he carries it forward too. He has a lot of his staff that just they own the programs and the things that he talks about, and it's really cool to see. I want to get right to our next person, because during the stretch, the coldest stretch that St. Louis had seen in a long time, the largest shelter in town closed their doors. The same day, this gentleman opened his doors to take in those people that were lost. No notice, no preparation, no anything. You're going to hear the story here in just a second. And he really is an example of sometimes you just don't even have time to think about it. You know, like Nike says, you just got to do it. So we're going to hear the story right now of Pastor Michael Robinson. All right, we are back with Changemakers. We're here with, do you go by Bishop Michael Robinson? Is that how you are identified?
Yeah, in some circles. Yeah, Bishop Michael Robinson. Michael Robinson is absolutely fine.
Perfect. Well, Michael, we're so excited to have you here. I received a nomination for you for the work that you're doing, and I'm really excited to share that with our audience here. But you know, the mission of Changemakers21 is to share the stories that you probably never have heard. And I think yours is one of those. So we've got a global audience, and I bet the people down in Sydney, Australia have no idea who you are. So can you share a little bit about your background before we get started? Who you are and all that good stuff?
Michael Robinson, born and raised here in St. Louis, Missouri. Love my city, product of the University City School District. You can't be from St. Louis and not tell what high school you're from. It's a St. Louis thing. Just loving what I am able to do. I've worked in many different social service organizations, everything from working in halfway houses to youth detention centers, always being involved in something that pours into and gives back to individuals. So that's in a nutshell who I am. I'm a minister, local pastor. They call me the Hope Dealer because I pastor in the inner city, right at the corner of hood and ghetto, right where that meets. That's where our church is. And so we get to minister to people that typically would not be welcomed in most churches. They don't look like everybody else. They don't have the nice clothes. Sometimes they don't even smell the nicest. Sometimes they come to church hungry for not just spiritual food, but natural food. We're that church that helps to provide that for them. So that's, you know, our church is called Hope Nation International Church. It's on Cottage and P.L. Scott, Bishop P.L. Scott in St. Louis, Missouri.
Gotcha.
The other part, I'm the CEO and founder of City Hope St. Louis, which is becoming, at a rapid pace, the largest provider of shelter beds for the unhoused community members in St. Louis, Missouri.
And that mission and what you're working on is the reason why you were nominated. So I want to just tell our audience why, and then I want you to fill in the gaps in case I say something wrong. But so there's a lot of places where somebody can go to sleep for the night. and they're not always the safest places, and they're not always the best places. Sometimes they're a park bench, sometimes they're a shelter. But there's not a lot of places that do exactly what you are striving to do. And I think that's amazing. So you provide them with a place to stay, but then you begin to work with them to get into their own housing situation. And you provide them with skills that allow them to get jobs and do those things. And it really is a different take. So I want to ask you, number one, did I sum that up accurately?
Absolutely, absolutely. You hit the nail right there on the head. It's so many reasons why an individual may find themselves in the predicament of being without shelter or being housed. So many various reasons, and none of that really matters to us other than let me get you into a safe place. Let me get you into a place where we can get you grounded, make sure you're okay, and then let's work with you on changing that situation. We don't want to have a Band-Aid effect. We want to take a treatment approach to it. Let's take the Band-Aid off. Let's treat the wound. Let's dig in and let's get to the root of the situation and find out exactly what the cause is, eliminate that, and get you on the road to a better life.
That's really the story. You know, I didn't share this with you, but there have been times where in my life I have been displaced. My business partner, Larry, who's co-hosting this event with me, was homeless for a long period of time. And we had the resources to come back from that, right? We had the training, we had the skills, we had family and those things. But a lot of the people that you work with, they don't have those things yet. Right. And you provide them to them. So to me, that's the definition of what a change maker is and what they do. And it's amazing to me. I love this project that we're doing because yours is an example of the story that isn't told. And maybe there's people in St. Louis that know it, but the people around the world don't. And Michael, what inspired you to do this? I always found there's some kind of trigger or some event or some tragedy or something that inspired this. And what's yours?
So there's two things that I would attribute to the reason why I am extremely passionate about what I do and has landed me in this place that I'm in right now. One was during middle school, we were in leadership programs, and one of the leadership programs that we were a part of took us on a tour of downtown St. Louis, where we had to live in downtown St. Louis. And they gave us a backpack and a map, and they told us we had to figure some things out. We had some stops we had to make. One of those stops was to, we call it the Red Door Church. It's known in the community downtown as a Red Door Church. It's the cathedral there, the Episcopal Cathedral, and they had a shelter in the basement for women and children. We had to actually, not only did we have to go there and cook dinner, but we had to stay there that night. Then the next night we went to another shelter and served lunch at Peter and Paul Shelter. Those two experiences, coupled along with the as we continued in leadership programs, we would get extra credit if over the holidays we would go and serve the homeless. My friends, a group of my friends, that was our meetup point. We would come home from college, back from our various cities, and through high school, through college, we would meet up and go to the shelters to serve Thanksgiving and Christmas. That continued something in me, and then here's the big trigger right here. 2017, winter vortex comes through the city of St. Louis. Horrible, bad winter. At the same time, during that winter, they closed down the largest homeless shelter in the city of St. Louis, New Life Evangelistic Center. They shut it down for various reasons. However, that's not important. The main thing was that there were going to be at least 200 individuals that would not have shelter space during that winter time because that building was closed now. And there were no new shelters that had opened up, no new shelter beds that had been opened. So I saw the weather forecast. I knew the news report, and I reached out to a friend of mine who manages the building that we rent for our church. And I said, hey, Steve, I said, I'm a screenshot of the weather report. I said, did you see this? And he said, yeah. And I said, what are we going to do? And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I think we need to open the building. And he says, what time do you want me to be there? And so we had no plan, no money, definitely no money. We had no staff, nothing. We had nothing but, and I tell everybody, I started the agency with a pot of spaghetti and a weather forecast. That's all I had. I scraped up some stuff that we had at the church, and I cooked a big pot of spaghetti, and we opened the doors. That night,
that's amazing.
60 to 70 people came in for shelter that night. We live in a community, and our church is in a community where there are tons of vacant buildings, and you would think that they're vacant, but we call them vacos. But every day there are individuals that come out of there and they come to our church for resources, and they would not have made it living and sleeping during that time in those buildings. Individuals from the downtown area that would normally have been able to go to New Life came to our shelter. 60 to 70 people. We put I got nervous. I got nervous, and I'm like, what are we going to do? So I started cooking. That's what I do. I'm a big boy, so that's my go-to. So I just started cooking for them. Then
it's funny, Michael. I gotta share this real quick. Somebody one time, I've started a lot of businesses, and some failed, some succeeded. It's just the nature of being an entrepreneur. And somebody one time, they asked me, what's your business plan for this one? I said, don't go broke, right? You don't always have to have it figured out to start. You just got to start, and then it'll figure it out. And it sounds like that's what you did putting this together. We're running a little bit light on time here. So I want to give you like the last 30 seconds to do two things. And if it takes 60, so be it. But share the website of your church, or share contact information of your project, how they get a hold of you. So for those that want to support. And secondly, we talked about this. There's going to be somebody that heard that they can make a difference just by taking some basic action. And I want you to share your words of wisdom, or your words to inspire them to do so with whatever resources they have, in whatever place or point in their life and career and whatever that they happen to be in. Share with them your words of wisdom. But first, how do they get in touch with you?
So you can reach us. It's not our church that does this anymore. We had to create a new organization. It's called City Hope St. Louis. You can reach City Hope St. Louis at www.cityhopestl.org. cityhopestl.org. You can find our organization there. We're a 501c3 organization that's grown from doing one shelter now to operating right now, presently 6 shelters right now. During the wintertime, we had over 10 locations operating at one time. So you can reach us
and it's
there.
cityhopestl.org, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And I'm putting that on the screen so people can see that right now.
All right.
And then what's your words of wisdom for those that might want to take action but don't necessarily know how?
Well, is do it afraid. Do it afraid. Don't be afraid.
Afraid.
Yeah. Do it afraid.
I love it.
Don't be so caught up in the moment and allow fear to paralyze you. Go ahead and do it. There are going to be times where you don't have enough, where you don't have everything. Listen, we've been flying this plane and building it at the same time. We just need it. You just need to be able to get it off the ground. And as you go, things will come. We didn't have anything but a pot of spaghetti. But when we opened the doors, then came donuts and juice. We had breakfast. Then came blankets, and then came cots. Everything will happen. Some things will never happen until you go. It's as you
Right.
go that things will happen and things will begin to shape and form and develop. So don't think that you've got to have everything in place, the whole plan. Do it afraid. Don't be afraid to start it.
Awesome. Michael Robinson, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a part of Changemakers 21. You're the first ever class. You're in the first class of Changemakers for Revitalize. So
Great.
thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. Guys, we have more Changemakers coming up. Make sure you stay tuned. Just a great show still in store for you. So thanks for being here and stay tuned.
Yes, all week I've been hearing Jim say, just do it afraid. Now I know where that came from. So what a great story. I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, and that is, the person who says it cannot be done should never interrupt the person doing it. So you don't always have to know the plan, and you don't have to know how to do it. You just have to start. And he certainly started, and just a great guy and a real change maker, which reminds me, we have more change makers coming even after tonight. Jim, do you want to explain how the Changemaker series continues through the rest of the year?
Yeah, so we had this well thought out plan where if we were able to keep the interviews to 6 to 8 minutes, we could feature 45 Changemakers, 15 per hour, or 15 per day, 5 per hour. And it didn't work. The stories were too compelling. The message was too important to cut them off. So what we've done is we narrowed it down to 11 Changemakers per night. This is night 3. So at the end of tonight, we will have 33 Changemakers listed. Just so you know, tomorrow afternoon, all 33 Changemaker videos will drop on YouTube with a link to be able to donate to the Changemakers initiative in an effort to support them. You'll be able to go rewatch the stories. Larry and I will be sharing a little bit about our take on the Changemakers series at the beginning of those videos. But it's really going to be about continuing this message beyond tonight. So on August 9th, that Monday, and continuing every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday after that, a Changemaker story will be told again. We'll sprinkle in the 12 Changemakers that you haven't heard from yet. And on November the 17th, we will hit the magic number 45. On November 19th, we are going to release the details, including how to vote and how to support the Changemakers going forward beyond that, including our Changemaker of the Year, including a series of other awards that we're going to be offering to these Changemakers as they continue to grow and follow their mission and collaborate. Larry?
Great. Yeah. And also just to let you know that you can go to the website and you can make a contribution and you can earmark it towards a specific Changemaker. And Jim and I are matching those contributions up to $5,000 of our own money.
Yeah, it's really great. And it's an amazing initiative. And I'm going to queue up our next speaker, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
Okay. This person for me is the definition, like every one of them. I really got to stop saying that because they're all the definition of a Changemaker, and that's why they were selected. But this particular person has done something truly amazing in a short period of time and has had a global impact. 22,000 organizations, global impact. So we received the nomination for her from another Changemaker, and it's funny how that happens. They're already collaborating, they're already working together. So right now we're going to hear from Dr. Ronika Thomas. All right, Changemakers, we are back. We're here with, I want to make sure I say it right. Is it Ronika Thomas?
Yes, I just go by Dr. Rowe though, because a lot of people don't know how to pronounce my first name correctly.
So how did you come up with the nickname Dr. Rowe?
It was just the first 3 letters of my name. It was catchy and everybody seemed to, get it and love it. So it's just kind of stuck with me over the years.
Fantastic. Well, you're down in Florida right now, but you're from St. Louis. And we received a lot of nominations for you as a change maker. And just in talking with you initially to find out what it was that you do and how it came about, it was easy to see why they thought you would be a perfect inaugural change maker for Revitalize for the class of 2021. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, what you do?
Sure. So I am a nonprofit expert and change maker within the nonprofit sector. I started with nonprofits like 14 years ago, and it's unbelievable how fast time really flies. But most people say when you're doing something that you love, it's really not even work. It's just getting up and, you know, having a certain passion and a love for what you do, and you're devoted to it. So I've been definitely devoted to making the change that I want to see. Um, Over the last year, even though it was a pandemic, I was able to start something that has literally took off beyond my biggest dreams, and it's helped thousands. And when I say thousands, I'm not even exaggerating. Thousands upon thousands of people within the nonprofit sector. I started the National Nonprofit Minority Association, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and also Blacks and Nonprofits, which is an amazing platform for people of color from all over the world to get connected. And it's grown from literally a couple of hundred people that said, "Yay, Dr. Rowe, I'm with you. I feel what you're trying to do. I'm behind your vision," to now reaching over 22,000 Black-led nonprofits from all across the world.
22,000. Is that what you said?
Yeah, we literally just crossed the 22,000 member mark yesterday. So it was a big celebration. We celebrate all of our small milestones, and small meaning every time we reach another 1,000 people, because that means that there's another 1,000 people that are connected to awesome resources, tips, and tools that they can use to help grow their nonprofit and feel connected to people that look like them.
Well, when you actually get some real numbers, call me back. 22,000. That's amazing. Congratulations. That's really, really unheard of. And you started during the pandemic, right?
Yes, correct. And it was kind of scary stepping out on faith and actually having my own business where this is my 9 to 5. This is what I do every single day when I wake up. And it's such a blessing to be a blessing to so many people. And just that vision that I had to be able to, bring people together for networking opportunities, for opportunities to learn, the correct way to start their nonprofits and not have to stress or, feel discouraged because they don't have a good support system. So that's literally what it's all about, is being that support system, that connection, that gap between nonprofits.
Wow. So this is an opportunity for a shameless plug. I promise I'll make up your time on this. But one of the things that Revitalize is doing, I think really very closely aligns with your mission. And our focus as an organization, as a nonprofit, is communities and unity. And it's bringing people together for collective good, sharing the stories of those doing well or doing good in their community already. So it'd be really neat to connect with you offline and just see what organizations you have in each of our chapters all around the world. I'm assuming you're international now, or are you just United States?
No, it's actually international as well. We have people in Australia, to Africa, to Switzerland. It's in the United Kingdom, to Asia, China.
Wow.
So it's definitely, like when I said expanded, it's just been super crazy. But our whole motto, and mine personally as well, is to walk in love. And that simply means that we love our neighbors, no matter what color you are. We just simply have that love in our heart that we actually want to genuinely see you succeed. And then the second one is to operate with integrity. And integrity goes such a long way, especially when you're in the nonprofit sector, when people are giving you money
For sure.
and they're relying on you to do exactly what you said you're going to do with money that's, gifted to you. So that's a huge one. And then the last one is simply we respect each other. We've all heard that saying where you say, to get respect, you have to give respect. Well, it's a two-way street. So we expect everyone to come into the platform, come into Blacks and Nonprofits, come into NNNMA with the expectation that we're going to respect you right off the bat. and we expect that you respect everyone's opinions and where they're coming from. Not everyone came from a solid background. We all have
Sure.
different walks of life and struggles that we struggle with privately or sometimes in public, but we can all love each other, respect each other, and do things with integrity. And that's what makes the platform work so well, is because people come in with the right mindset, and we've developed such a strong culture that everyone comes in and they feel like they're actually a part of a family.
Okay. I think one of the things that's really, I guess, telling in today's society and commendable to you is that the basics that we should all be able to expect and be granted and be given is something that you have to put into the core mission of your organization, because it just isn't always there, right? Respecting one another isn't always there. Looking at someone for what talent they bring to the table and not anything else is not always commonplace. So commendable piece of your business. I want to step back for a second. And I found that everybody that gets involved with something gets involved for some reason. So why did you get involved with nonprofit work? What was the trigger or the catalyst or the life event that caused that for you?
I would say my whole life in general. Ever since I was a little bitty girl, my mom always told me that I love giving back and love helping and just love being a blessing to other people. So I've kind of taken that whole philosophy and applied it to life in general. When you're a blessing to others, God turns right around and blesses you. So I believe that to my core. So every single time I have an opportunity to be a blessing to someone, whether it's in my own business or blessing somebody else's in theirs, I feel obligated to do so. So nonprofit work just seemed to be a good fit for me. I'm a counselor by trade, and in that spirit, you help people all the time. You're listening to people's problems and concerns and providing solutions or opportunities for them to improve. And so when I had an opportunity to step up and do something in my community, I started my first organization called Share My Kicks Foundation. And that grew in St. Louis so much so that I had like shoes for days, blessing others. It took me over to Africa. We were able to provide 50,000 books and create a library over in Nigeria, renovated, and that work, it just doesn't stop. If you're a giver, it tends to stay with you. So I like to say it's just stuck with me, and it's just grown to be a huge passion of mine. So not a particular story or like a life event. It's just something that's embedded in me.
That's great. And that is the story, right? That some people just have that drive to do for others. And that, again, it's telling about who you are. I'm really excited to have you on Changemakers. And I understand now why so many people nominated you. A couple of questions for you. As you were putting this together in the midst of a pandemic, what challenges did you encounter? I imagine you probably had some obstacles thrown your way.
Yeah, so starting a business in a pandemic, I believe there's so many different challenges that one goes through because you're at home, and you have to be able to reach people virtually, which is something that I've always been able to do. So it wasn't really a hiccup that I had to overcome, but that was the only way because in-person things was like completely shut down. So I definitely had to step up my online presence and really get the vision out, from doing Facebook Lives to just calling and talking to people, sending text messages out like, hey guys, this is something that I'm doing. Do you want to be a part? I definitely utilize Facebook inbox because I'm more of a personal person. I can't ask you to support something if you've never heard of me. You don't know what I'm trying to do. You don't have any backdrop. So I personally reached out to people, sent inbox messages and said, hey, I'm Dr. Rowe. This is what I'm trying to do. And would you like to be a part of it? So I took a personalized approach. And in that, the challenging parts, I would definitely say, is the time consuming part. I don't know anybody that's willing to inbox over 10,000 people unless you're severely driven and really believe in your mission and what God has, placed in your heart to do. And that was me. I definitely believe that this is my purpose in life. I definitely believe I'm walking in my calling, and it definitely shows by how many people that are positively affected by, that one single yes I had to do what God placed on my heart to do. So that would be the only challenging part is the time. You know, you have to put in time to get the results that you want. So I was very much committed to it. Stayed up all night, did long days, and just really gave 100% to this whole project that I've been doing.
I'm surprised you didn't get thrown in Facebook jail for 10,000 inbox messages.
Oh, no, you have to do it in segments. And
Gotcha.
I work closely with Facebook. I'm one of their global leaders. So they definitely are behind the work that I'm doing and definitely are in full support. And they saw the need
That's great.
was there as well. So it's just been a true blessing.
And 22,000 nonprofits and individuals have been impacted as a result. So amazing work. We're going a little bit over on time here, but I want to give you the last two pieces. The first one is, what advice would you have for those that are looking to get started and maybe don't have an idea of where to go? How would they just get involved with making a difference in someone's life, making an impact with someone?
The biggest thing that I would always tell everyone is to be authentic, be yourself. When you're yourself, you discover so many amazing gifts and talents that you have inside of you that sometimes you don't know you possess until someone great comes along and recognizes it and identifies it in you. That someone great came along when I was back in high school and identified the leader in me, identified the positive traits that I had, and I was able to bring those out and now exemplify them to high levels where other people are able to recognize and see them and get, behind me or support, the efforts that I'm doing. So if I was trying to be somebody else or to try to make somebody else's vision happen that wasn't mine, then it wouldn't work out in the way that it's working out right now. So definitely have to have ambition, have drive, and be relentless. So many people always say, what's a name or what's a character that describes you that matches your first letter? And I always struggle because mine starts with an R. So for the longest, I would say Radical Renika. And Radical is awesome, but it really didn't describe what my life has been like and so many different hoops and hurdles that I've had to come and, learn from and grow from to be the amazing person that I am today. So relentless is one that I stand proud behind because it means that you don't give up, and if you have a dream or a vision, you go after it with all you got and just step out on faith and understand that everything happens for a reason and everything happens for a season. So your time is coming. Just stay faithful and stay persistent and keep going after your dreams.
Wow. Dr. Rowe, the last piece here, how do they get in touch with you? How do they follow you? What's your website?
Yeah, so if you want to follow me, I'm at the Dr. Rowe on Instagram, on Facebook, Renika Thomas. You can follow the National Nonprofit Minority Association on Instagram and on Facebook. And then Blacks and Nonprofits, the same. We have an Instagram page and we also have a Facebook page and group that all you have to do is type in the search bar, Blacks and Nonprofits, and our whole platform will come up. So would love to have you follow me. You can send me an inbox. Of course, I'm going to answer them. So yeah, that's the best way.
Awesome. Well, you again exemplify what Changemakers21 is designed to be and what it's all about. So thanks for taking some time to join us. Thanks for inspiring others to take action. And we'll be back with more Changemakers here in just a few minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
I've got to say, I've been listening to every single interview tonight as I have the last two nights. And I feel like I've been through an intense workout, and it's been an emotional workout because hearing all these stories of people like aligning and connecting to their passion and to their authenticity and how they translate that and put that into the community and giving back is just, it's so amazing because when you turn on the news and you listen to the news, it's so negative. It's about the killings and it's about the crime and it's about the disease and, on and on. And then you listen to people like this, people like Changemakers who are creating change in the community. And it's just, it's radically and relentlessly different. And it's so inspiring. And I mean, she said she started a business in the pandemic. I mean, she launched a business in the pandemic, 22,000 members, just incredible, Jim. Really amazing.
Yeah, I had myself muted. Sorry, I didn't realize that I was talking,
That's okay.
but it didn't come out.
I mean, don't you feel the
no,
same
it
way?
is.
Like it's just incredibly emotional listening to story after story about people like this. That you
I
want
was
to dig in
texting
yourself more and give more.
Yeah, I was texting with someone that sent me a text during this and said, "What an incredible story!" And they're like, "How are you doing?" And I'm like, I have a mixture of extreme like exhaustion and incredibly emotional satisfaction of what we've put together. And it's like a workout. I mean, I'm mentally, you have to be all in to put something like this together. And it just really is, it's fun, amazing, exciting. Larry, what has been your takeaway of the night so far?
I think just the spirit of people wanting to help people. And so much of the last year has been so fragmented and full of fighting and division and divide that my takeaway from the night and from the last couple nights is one of hope and one of compassion and just people wanting to help people. That's what I would say, Jim.
Yeah, me too, Larry. And it's the person that we're going to talk to next is an example of that for me. She has been a lifelong friend of mine. In fact, our mothers were room mothers or den mothers, I think. Room mothers and den mothers, actually. Back in the day, so to speak, we went to elementary school together. At the time, her name was Daniel Beaver. She now is Michelle Shepard. She is a self-proclaimed transgender defender. And she really has helped to educate me on what that process looks like, what it is to go through those challenges, and has helped to create a situation where other people feel safe because of her efforts. And I want to share a real quick story before we cue up this interview. I was at dinner with a friend of mine, and her niece was there, and her niece had just come to a life decision about her sexual identity, sexuality, and had just come to her mom and talked to her mom about it, but was really scared to share everything else. I was able to connect her immediately with Michelle Shepard, who we're about to hear from. And her words of wisdom, advice, guidance, and willingness to always be there for others is an example of why she was a clear choice to be one of the 45 changemakers we honored for Changemakers21. And here is her story, Miss Michelle Shepard.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really excited and honored to share with you
I think there's something wrong with the audio. Give us just a second here. Let me just try and fix that.
Our next
there we go.
Changemaker.
Let me start this over.
You do.
Sure. So my name is Michelle Shepard. Where I'm from down here, I'm also known as Mama Mish.
Here, we're gonna take her out and start this over. So let's try and do this again. I'm gonna back this up, and then we'll pull it up. Make sure it works.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really excited and honored to share with you our next Changemaker honoree for 2021. And her name is Michelle Shepard. And Michelle was introduced to me by my business partner, Jim Shelby, a couple years ago. Michelle, we've chatted a few times. We've never met. I'd like you to introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So my name is Michelle Shepard. Where I'm from down here, I'm also known as Mama Mish. I'm actually, speaking of down here, I'm actually living in Melbourne, Australia. I'm originally from St. Louis. Jim and I actually are old high school classmates. We've known each other since early days. And my pronouns are she and her, and I'm a trans woman who does a lot of advocacy down here in Australia.
Great. So you were nominated as an honorary changemaker because clearly of the work you do in your community. I mean, you are an inspiration. I know you host a couple of shows. You do your community work. You really help people with the transition, and you've shared personally with me some of the stories that you faced as a child growing up, which were really, I mean, man, they really touched my heart. So could you go into a little bit deeper about the work you do and the impact you make?
Sure. So, look, I've been dealing with my gender identity stuff since I was a young kid. Like I said, I've known Jim since I was a very young boy. We were in Cub Scouts together. I went through all my different trials and stuff as a young adult, even as well, there when I was in America. Dealing with coming in, coming out, going back in the closet is so many times. But eventually, I went back in the closet for a number of years and then had an opportunity to move to Australia. So I did. It wasn't until I was 36 that I came out as trans officially. It was something that I actually really struggled with myself, with dealing with a lot of the stereotypes and all that had happened towards society. So I really had no choice but to kind of come out. It was just something I just couldn't continue hiding anymore. But I found that when I did finally come out, no matter how much you did over the years in, my career in IT of 20 years just became nothing. Nobody really was interested at all. And so I had to kind of start from scratch. I had nothing. I had nothing to start with. Right. So
Right.
the only work I was offered was doing landscape gardening or cleaning, airplane cabins or cleaning, hotel rooms. Nothing. It was a manual labor, earning a pittance. So after I came out, I really had to reevaluate what it was I was doing and what kind of work I was going to do. So an opportunity to do a lot of public speaking, and eventually came in to be interviewed on a radio show that I eventually took over as the host and was nominated for awards for, and doing a lot of speaking gigs for many different places. Down here, we have the AFL, which is the Australian Football League, which is maybe our professional version of, say, the NFL or MLB. And so I'm doing a lot of work within them at the high end level, to working with a lot of the different clubs, working with different other sporting groups, whether they're cricket and rugby, but also working with many corporate spaces, and even founding funding to go and focus on highlighting the issues facing the gender diverse community. So many people believe that as a trans woman that you were a gay man before, and I wasn't. I actually was living a very heterosexual life, being a parent, being a husband, all those things. But our relationship fell apart, and I had to go on this journey. But for me, I've eventually won awards for my work around highlighting the barriers and challenges facing gender diverse people and LGBT people as a whole. When I say LGBT, I mean LGBTIQA+. I don't mean to not highlight anybody specifically, but I'm just saying it shorthanded as in this conversation.
Sure.
And so I get pulled into many different conversations around policies and work. And so the current work I do is in the transport industry here. We have a very big transport industry here in the state of Victoria that I'm in, and I'm live in the city of Melbourne. And a lot of the work I do, I'm the only trans woman within this space. And so I'm writing policies and resources to help people with their journeys as well.
That's great. You've shared with me, and I'm just wondering if you'd be willing to share with the viewers tonight some of the challenges that you had in your transition. I mean, you shared some stories about being like spit on the bus, and it just really and maybe through your stories, people might be a little softer or kinder to each other. Can you share some of those? Thank you.
And in a lot of those stories, you're revisiting them often. And I'm somebody who doesn't focus on the negative. I'm always, I will always find a way to be as positive as I can and find if it becomes a barrier, I see it as a challenge, and I'll say challenge exactly, and I won't succumb to it. But for me, during that time, look, my ex and I, we had issues before I came out, so we didn't split because I was trans. We actually had other issues that were going on. But after I did come out, there were issues of being rocks and bricks and rubbish and stuff being thrown at me on the front lawn because I was coming out. I was banned from seeing my kids at the school, even though I was still able to see my kids and have the time with them that I had. I was told that I couldn't actually take them to school or attend any of the parenting programs that were like Dad's Day or anything like that. I'd go on public transport and I'd be spat on, shoved, outed. People would be like, look, look, it's a man. I'm telling you, look at its arms, look at its hands.
Gosh.
You'd look at people and be like, can I help you? And they'd actually shut up because you're 6'3", and so they don't want to start any shit with you to begin with. But I've been at a public space on a tram stop. I've been knocked down and spat on because I'm trans, and I was just trying to figure out where I'm going on a map. I didn't hardly say anything. Nobody came to my rescue or anything. There was a group of women that had a go at me on a public transport, called me a pervert and a pedophile on public transport as I'm going home and not even talking to anybody and just being myself. As you can see, I don't present in a way that's overly, sexualized or anything. I look no different than probably any other cis woman that's out there. And by cis, I mean CIS, as someone who identifies as the gender they were assigned at birth. And I just unfortunately have dealt with so many of those things. And even though I work in the transport industry, even today, I still get outed and yelled at and spat on and all kinds of things. So it's just about keeping going, keeping your head up, and being focused on the goals that you want to achieve within this space.
That's beautiful, and I just really admire you for continuing your path and honoring who you are. Could you just maybe take a glimpse into the future 5 years from now, and someone says the name Michelle Shepard, what type of impact would you like to make? Is it with kids? Is it with the political structure? Where do you see yourself in 5 years as a change maker?
Oh God. Everyone keeps telling me I should go for politics down here. That would be very interesting. I do see myself actually leading the way when it comes to making a massive change within the employment space. When we deal with a lot of different recruitment organizations and just D&I spaces within corporate areas, unfortunately, it's a conversation that it's still uncomfortable. I would like to actually change the conversation and split that sexual diverse component to the gender diverse component to understand the inequity between the different issues that face each different letter, because people don't understand that we're a community of communities, not one specific community. And so I want to actually make a massive impact on that and change the way that we're even recruiting and how we're engaging further communities. So for example, let's say, I'm trying to remember back in America, a big company, say Bank of Australia, for example, let's say they want to engage with diverse individuals. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of actually just putting a CV up, let's actually go and saying, hey, we see these moms, or we see this diverse individual who is struggling to understand the language we're trying to look for within our CVs. Let's hold expos. Let's bring people together. Let's actually engage diverse communities to come in and actually do it. So for example, Larry, we might have somebody who looks like you with a background such as yourself, or Jim, who's in a diversity capacity within an organization. Say it's Bank of America, say it's any other organization it's there. You are then told to write a policy on how to engage someone like me without having lived experience to understand. And that's what's happening, is that you as somebody who's then told to do this. So we need to actually engage those of us who have the lived experience to help you create those policies and engage those wider communities that are struggling to connect with.
That's great. So many of our change makers that we featured came from, what many would perceive disadvantaged or challenged backgrounds, and they've been able to pivot that and then help others. But I think, you are unique because it's your gender. It's the inside. It wasn't that, you didn't have food or electricity growing up. It didn't have that. Those were external factors that clearly can be devastating, that many have, but yours was an internal something. So is there any advice or tips you want to share? Like, how do you stay positive in such a place that could be just darkness? And how do you?
It's not easy. Look, my kids helped me get through it. It's connecting with colleagues through the years who understand and just listen. I get a lot of help from Jack Daniels, just those sorts of things. But my big thing as well is I love the goals that are kicked. So, for example, I myself, I've not had certain surgeries. I haven't had facial surgery. I haven't had any other surgeries to then meet society's demands of how I should present myself as a woman. So what I do is I really try to understand. I really seek to understand what it is that needs to change. So instead of making myself palatable to the wider society, saying that I should go and change my jaw, I should go and change my brow, I should go and change my nose, I'm not doing that because I shouldn't have to do that, right? So that's one of the things is I inspire a lot of people because I'm not changing any of that. And I refuse to, because if you can't accept me for how I'm presenting to you right now, then that's not good enough. Then I don't want to work for you anyway. And so I'm getting messages from people from Ireland, from Russia, I've got stuff from Scotland, I've got stuff from Iceland. I got somebody from Pennsylvania recently. So for all the work that I do, and it's really exciting to see that that's how wide of a footprint I've started creating, because I'm basically saying, well, fuck you, this is me, and I'm not meeting your standards. And a lot of women out there pretty much say the same thing, because that's what also pisses a lot of cis women off, because trans women come in to try and meet these expectations that most cis women don't want to meet. And so I say, fine, I'm not doing it either. And that's the stuff that gets me going is just that seeing everybody going, yes.
Sure. Well, like I said, I haven't met you, but I just on a personal level want to share the impact that you've had with me, because you have inspired me and given me more permission to be me. Because through you, you're giving yourself permission to be you in your own beautiful way that you are. And that's the impact that you've had on me. I really admire you, and just I'm so glad that we've had the opportunity to connect. But before we end this interview, I'd like to ask you what you might say to someone who wants to make a change in their community, or wants to make a change within themselves, but feels like maybe, well, I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or I don't know where to start. What type of wisdom or guidance might you share with them?
Well, if you basically say, I don't have the money or the time, I did this with nothing. Like when I came out, Larry, I had, just to give you an example, I was working for one of the top 4 accounting firms in their digital offerings department, right? So we were working on a lot of new products and stuff. So I went from an income here of about maybe $90,000, right? So when I lost everything, I was barely making 30. I had nothing. I couldn't put food on the table. I could barely buy 2-minute noodles for my kids. Mind you, I was at the point of committing suicide. I actually went and planned it. I was going to have a last weekend with my daughter, but I had a massive shift in my mindset. And I realized I had too many motherfuckers to prove wrong. And I went ahead, and it was funny because I had this shift, and the next day, and nobody knew, because I'm somebody who's not I don't have massive pride, but I was somebody who was like, nobody wants to hear how sad and lonely you are or how much you're struggling. People just don't care. They'll tell you how your day is, but they're only doing it because it's a society obligation, right?
Sure.
So the next day after that, I made the decision. I said, I need to do this. And mind you, when I was going for coffees, anytime anybody would pay for coffee, I took it. I had, like, for 2 weeks, I'd probably have $5 to last me, and I was making it stretch as much as I could. It was not easy, but I kept going because I was focused on what it is I was trying to achieve. And you know what? You set yourself a little goal. You set yourself the next goal, and it goes from there. And each year as I was doing it, I was just networking. Network. LinkedIn is an amazing platform to use. Start sharing stories, talking about the things you're working on. Get people to put recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. It started building each year that I was doing my business, right? Up until 2019, my business is still growing, but up until 2019, I was growing and doubling my income I was making on top of the work that I was doing. So I was still going, and I eventually found full-time work, but I was 3,000, 6,000, 9,000. I leapt to 15,000. By the time the end of 2019 had come, right leading up to COVID impact, just my small little business, all of a sudden it was turning over just over 30-something thousand. And here I was driving a promotional vehicle from BMW as a thank you for highlighting their inadequacy for diversity and a misunderstanding. And this was from a gay man who I had to basically put in his place because he didn't understand.
Right.
So it just comes down to networking and being driven. And each year it goes on and builds from there. Yes, I've had a small setback because of COVID, but you know what? I shifted to online. And you know, when I'm doing online training, I always joke and saying, I may or may not be wearing pants and there may or may not be a bottle of stuff with me, but I'm still doing it. I'm still going. And
that's great.
And you know what? There are times that next thing you know, when you start rising up, you'll start seeing other people who are in the same position you were. And you know what? If you have the $5, I believe in karma. If you have the $5, invest in people and buy them a coffee, because you never know who will come back.
I love that.
Back and actually, you know, be an ally. So I have some people actually coming back and going, Michelle, you actually helped me with this. And so I want to bring you in and have somebody hear the stories that you're willing to talk about, because you have such a different perspective on all of it. And just always use kindness.
That's beautiful. Well, Michelle, I want to thank you so much for being part of Changemakers 2021. As I said, I admire you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your personal journey. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future and sharing part of your growth. So thanks again for being with us. Jim, back to you.
Okay. You did. We got all of that covered. Hey, really, guys, one of the things that I want to talk about, and it just is an exemplification of what this is all about for me, is I've talked to people about Michelle and shared her story. Larry, I'm going to bring you on here. So let me just put this off. There we go.
Yes.
Larry, can you see me okay? Okay. Perfect. So one of the things that I like, this is my own personal admission, right? Call it right, call it wrong. But one of the things that I struggled with was trying to understand how she could have felt the way that she felt. So I want to take each of you on a real quick journey. And I want you to understand something from a different perspective. So whether you're a man or a woman is really irrelevant to what I'm going to say, but I'll use men as an example. So for all the men watching, I want you to imagine yourself standing in front of a mirror, looking at yourself, and you see who you are in all your glory. And then someone comes in and they tell you, well, you're actually a woman. And you're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And they look at you and they say, but yes, you are. You're definitely a woman. And that conflict, that feeling that you're having inside right now of going, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I want to put it in perspective and say, what if when they told you you're actually a woman, the person you looked at in the mirror was? And you know deep inside you're a man. But your biology, your reflection doesn't say that you are. And that is what Michelle went through. And I know so many other people have gone through that. And I think she does a really incredible job of sharing what it's like to be a trans person. And, you know, what you didn't hear is the amount of rejection she had internally with her family, people that had known her for years that just completely just cut her off. And I actually reconnected with her when she was going through this. And we've been closer friends now than we ever were then. And she's just an amazing person. Larry, that's my little journey story.
Yeah,
I wanted to share.
that's great. I can't think of anything to add to that. Well,
Awesome. So the next person that we're going to talk to, and then we're getting dangerously close to wrapping up Changemakers21, the live event. This person was referred to us by another Changemaker, Mr. Larry Kinbaum, who was featured Tuesday evening. And his story is a story of taking something tragic. And I can't think of anything more tragic, and I don't think anyone else can, than the loss of a child, other than potentially the loss of a child to suicide. And that's what happened to Clark Flatt. And Clark went on to create the largest organization in the world that is educating people and sharing and helping in the area, trying to prevent childhood suicide. And I can't even believe I'm saying those words, childhood suicide. And he shared with me, or Larry did, I can't remember, and it might be showed in this interview, that the second leading cause of death for children 10 to 14 is suicide. And I can't even really fathom what that would be. I have a 10-year-old, and I can't even believe that that would be on his radar, but it is, and it's some people's realities, and right now it's some people's history. And you're going to hear the story tonight of Clark Flatt, the formation of the Jason Foundation, and I encourage you all to listen intently. All right, welcome back to Changemakers21. We are here with someone that until yesterday, I really didn't know anything about, or day before yesterday. I'm here with Clark Flatt. And Clark is the, am I saying it right, founder and CEO?
Founder and president. I used to be
founder
president
and president.
and CEO, but I found out CEO did the work, so we hired a CEO.
That's perfect. Of an organization called the Jason Foundation. And we're going to get into the Jason Foundation here in just a little bit and really your mission behind it. But one of our change makers that we spoke with mentioned his involvement with your organization. So you were, I have to say, a last minute addition to the Changemakers lineup, and one that I couldn't be more honored to bring in. The mission of this, Clark, as you know, and we've talked about, is to tell the stories that probably aren't being told. And yours is one of those. And it's amazing what you do and the lives that you've touched, the undoubtedly tens of thousands of people that you've had an impact on. And so that's the premise of how I want to lead into this. And then I'd like to just really turn it over to you and ask if you could share a little bit about your story, a little bit about the Jason Foundation, and let's go from there.
Sure. That sounds great. Well, you start out just with about me.
Yeah, about you.
Okay. Yeah. I really came from the for-profit world. I was I owned a small insurance company for 20 years and really had the all-American life, that the house that was overlooking the lake and the sports cars, and had the two kids, the dog and the cat, wife. All this was really going well until July the 16th, 1997. July the 16th, 1997, I lost my youngest son, Jason, to what we call the silent epidemic of youth suicide. It was not something where he was struggling with this. If you looked at Jason, he was what's the scary part of this, the all-American young man. And let me preference what all-American is. That's different for different people. He wasn't their straight A student or the all-state in football or basketball. He was your solid BC student, like his good old dad. Very good in athletics, but it wasn't that star level where he was going to be going to Division I schools. Had a good life. The company was going well. Really didn't see any issues around until that day on July the 16th. Unfortunately, when this thing called the silent epidemic of youth suicide took Jason, who was at 16 years old at the time. As we talked before we started filming, that this is traumatic. No matter how you lose a young person, if you lose a child, it doesn't matter whether it's through a car accident or a drug overdose or suicide. It is a very traumatic, life-changing, life-impacting, not only for the family, but for those people that are close to that individual. And that's what happened when we lost Jason. I lost him. I just said, this doesn't happen to families like ours. It doesn't happen to families that are what some people would say functional, middle income, upper middle income. Everything was just going great. There was no drug or alcohol problems, no mental health issues that we knew of at that time. And so this was something that shouldn't have happened. Why did it do it? And I had a friend that kept asking me, do you understand what happened? And I remember really the start of the Jason Foundation was me going into my insurance company and going in front of my old Radio Shack computer that was top of the line back then, and typing in youth suicide. The first thing that came up was, at that day and time, youth suicide was the third leading cause of death. It was that one sentence that got me thinking. As a parent, I'd gone to every PTO, every PTA, every church meeting, anything that was out there that would tell me how to keep my two boys safe, how to give them the best life that I could give them. I heard about drugs, alcohol, even a form of bullying back in the early 1990s. That was all out there. But no one had ever mentioned suicide as a threat, let alone the third leading cause of death for young people ages 15 to 24 at that time. And so by not mentioning it, we'd never heard about how to recognize warning signs, what to do if you saw those signs. So we started the Jason Foundation, myself, my family, a few close personal friends. I said our CEO, she was with me from my insurance company. And when we moved and got the Jason Foundation, she started with us here, and we've split off the president CEO not too long ago. And she was the excellent choice, and she runs all of our affiliate offices across the country now. But we started officially, we're coming up on the 24th year. On October the 1st of this year, we'll be 24 years old. And we've really been blessed. I'm glad you're talking about Changemakers. It's not so much what we've done, it's the Changemakers who have come into our life. Some of the people that just made a phone call. Came in and saw something that we were doing, saw a news article, heard one of us speak. It's been phenomenal about the change makers who have influenced us and allowed us to do our work. So we are now 24 years old. We're a national leader. I don't get into bumping chest and say who's the largest and who's the biggest and all this. We're proud to accept the title of a national leader in youth and young adult suicide. And we can talk more as we get into what those programs are and how we do it. But we're proud of the work we do, but we're able to do this because of people like you and others that have come into our life.
That's amazing. And, for me, Clark, it's really interesting to hear how people get started. In yours, obviously, there's that major catalyst of something tragic happening, and there's a movie, Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen it, but at the end, Morgan Freeman says you can get busy living or you can get busy dying. And when something tragic happens, a lot of times people will just kind of sit back and adapt to what's happened, but not adjust and grow. And you did something really amazing. So I'd like to, I don't know if you're going to know this off the top of your head, and I'm not really big on prefacing or preparing for interviews because I want it to be natural and authentic. But do you have any idea how many total kids you've spoken in front of or your organization has talked to? Just a ballpark?
No, I was looking at some figures that were up through 2018, and we had impacted over 8.5 million lives at that point. That's not using, some people, like you say, some people count things really differently. You put something in a newspaper that has a readership of 500,000. So you say, well, 500,000 people read this. You don't know that. So we leave those things out. Those are icing. Those are things that we do. We're talking about people who actually were at a seminar, or participate. Social media is big for us over the last few years. We use it it's not just throwing, let me tell you what we're doing or blowing our own horn, sharing information, sharing new stats that are out there, sharing any type of new tools that are out there. We target a lot now with it, where if it's something particular for even a part of a state, we can zero in and try to help that area with resources that we can provide to it. So all of these things together, one of our biggest programs is providing in-service professional development for teachers. I personally believe the number one spot, beyond the young people themselves, but the number one spot we can make the biggest difference in suicide awareness and prevention, especially for our youth, is through our teachers. And it's not to make them counselors. Let me stress that. They have enough on their, and we wouldn't want them to make the counselors if they had time. That's a very precise thing. But what we wanted to do was to give them the tools and resources to be able to better identify and respond to someone who might be struggling with thoughts of suicide. We train between 180 to 200,000 teachers a year now. And that's the one that I'm most proud of. And it's making a difference because these teachers are taking those tools back into the classroom, and they are touching those individual lives. Just had here in Tennessee, one of the larger leading school districts. The superintendent came an hour and a half drive to come visit us yesterday, sat down and spent 2 hours in a room with me and our CEO and said, tell me what we are not doing that we can do to help our kids. Now, when you got leadership like that, and that's where we can make a difference.
For sure. I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
And it just, you never know what you're starting, what it will become.
No.
So I have a question for you. And this is just I just thought of this. What did you expect would happen when you started this? I mean, obviously, there's no chance you could have foreseen what it has become. But what were you hoping to accomplish?
I get invited to a lot of nonprofit seminars where it's not about us and our particular mission on suicide prevention, but how did you start this? How did you grow it from where you are to a national leader? And I'd love to tell them it's because I'm a wise, smart business person and I made this 5-year plan, 3-year plan. And in fact, one of our boards early on said, we need to have a 3 and a 5-year plan. And I said, that'd be wonderful, but it's not going to be relevant because it'll change by tomorrow. Really what started, we started this, we got that group together. And I said, as I was mentioning, as a parent, the PTOs, the PTAs, the churches, no one was talking about suicide being even a threat to their, especially if you were a middle income, a mom and dad and, all American type family. That doesn't happen to us. But that's exactly the kids that we were and still are losing today. That better than average kid, that kid that you would look at and says has everything to live for. We started a parent seminar and we got volunteers to come in. They were teachers, pastors, just businessmen and women. We got together a small little program. We used some clinicians out of Vanderbilt and some places I had been working with, and did a parent seminar. And our dream was someday to cover the state of Tennessee with these and be a part-time. The only reason we became a 501c3 is that I had my company. Of course, we had a CPA firm and we had an attorney firm that represented us. They wanted to do something to help, and what they were good at was filing things. So the attorney said, become a 501c3. At least you have a functioning framework. You'll have something. If somebody wants to help you do this stuff, they can write you a check and take it off their taxes. And so that's the only reason I filed for 501c3 was they said, we'll do it for you. Just give us the blessing. We'll set it up. Probably the biggest thing that happened to us, 1998, we had a youth board. Instead of just our regular board, we had a youth board. It was hard to find them things to do. I mean, they were so energetic. They was wanting to do, and we didn't want them to sell donuts, do car washes, right? We wanted them to help with our mission. They came up with an idea of getting us a national spokesperson. Now this is the funny part. In 1998, nobody knew about us outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And not many people in Nashville, Tennessee knew about us. So they wanted a national spokesperson. I gave them the job to do that, just to give them something to do, to be honest with you. And I said, take a couple of 3 meetings to do this. You got to think through it well. And they came back to me and said, we want Philip Fulmer, who was then head coach of the University of Tennessee. I'd never met Coach Fulmer. I'd never talked with him. And I told him, fine, write him a letter. I want to see the letter before you send it. We'll ask him to be national spokesperson. They wrote a great letter and told what we were trying to do and sent it to him. He called 2 weeks later and said, can you come to Knoxville? He said, I want to do anything I can to help a young person. And when I can't help them anymore, you tell me and I'll step aside. You put somebody else in here. And he became our spokesperson in 1998. What was changing about that is he picked the phone up and called Mark Rick. He called Nick Saban. I can go on with the names that he called and said, let me tell you what I'm part of. You need to be part of this too. And then that started us outside the state. Then that started getting other people involved. And then we said, hey, really what was the impetus? The insurance company I owned, I had an exclusive contract. I won't say who the people were, but they came to me and they said, you need to decide whether you want to be a nonprofit or whether you want to be own this insurance enterprise. And I said, my customers having any problems? Have any complaints? No. It was a financial thing, in my opinion. And so they gave me a choice of doing one or the other. And really, it was getting kicked out of the nest like a little bird. I wasn't going to give up the Jason Foundation, and I think they knew it. And so I gave up the business. But you can tell I haven't missed a meal. And but getting kicked out of the nest was probably the best thing for the Jason Foundation. I mean, then I said, okay, this is just not, let's do something part-time. Let's do something now. This is it. How are we going to make this function? And been blessed with some great people. Coach Fulmer's still with us. Still is our national spokesperson. I give him names of people we need to talk to, and he can get with them and get to them, or get to other coaches who can get to those people. So it's people like that. You talk to one, Larry Kinbaum. Gosh, if I could have half of his energy, I would be good then. Folks like that.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy.
But that's how we started, and it spread. It wasn't a plan. In fact, one of the issues I have now, we've talked about this on Monday, the size that we are, that I have people that are working with us and things that I used to know everybody and their kids. And there's people that I can meet now and they say, well, I'm one of your JFI reps and I don't know it. And that's really, I hate that part of it. It's necessary for our growth. And we have 160 affiliate offices across the country now. So,
oh my goodness,
and they're
160.
Located in 41 states now, but we provide services to all 50. That just, that's why these things are so much fun, Jim. Most of the time when I get a phone call, it's not that, let me tell you what a great job you're doing. It's some kind of challenge. And that's just part of business. We are a nonprofit. We are trying to do good things. But as they say, no good deed goes unpunished. There's still the business world out there that we have to deal with. And we have to deal with other opinions. I was talking to a nonprofit last week, great little one starting up, makes me remember us. And my little speech is that everybody puts their arm around you is not hugging you. Some of them is going to put the bear hug on you, because when you're small, everybody loves you. When you get larger, you become a target. And I don't like that. Right. I don't like that part of the nonprofit. We're trying to even elevate other people who do the same things that we do. There's so much to be done. I told you very briefly, and this might segue you where you want to go. I know we got to keep this in your time frame, but when I lost Jason, it was the third leading cause of death for young people, 15 to 24. Today in our nation, suicide's the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 24. How many people are out there? How many people have you that don't really? From 10 to 24 years old, the second, and 10 to 14 is a solid second leading cause. It wasn't that many years ago when 10 to 14 didn't even hardly register percentage wise. Now it's the second leading cause of death in that one segment, 10 to 14, 12 to 18, from 10 to 24 overall. Only unintentional injuries take more lives in our nation than suicide. It's a grouping. When you look at 1 through 10, only number 1 is a group. Everything else are single items. And what is unintentional injuries? The CDC says it's motor vehicle accidents, drug overdoses, accidental falls, accidental drownings. You can go on like that. You put all those things together.
That's a huge group.
It is a huge group.
Just the car accidents are probably wow.
Right. But suicide, that's how suicide's impacting. You asked me what I want out of this. If I don't do anything with the Jason Foundation, but help raise the awareness, not scare people, but raise the awareness. Much like we know that drugs are a danger to our kids, know that human trafficking is a danger. You know, if you turn around, the kid's gone for a minute, you where they're at. You know, we need to make it known that yes, suicide is a real threat to all families across the things. And 4 out of 5 young people, or 4 out of 5 people really, who will have suicidal ideation will show warning signs before they actually make the attempt. We have to try to educate people how to see those warning signs and then know what to do. Not to be a counselor, but know how to respond appropriately to that. But raising the awareness. If you don't raise the awareness, nobody's going to want to learn how to do warning signs because they don't see it as something's going to affect their family.
Yep. Well, Clark, we are way over on time.
Sorry.
So I want to close out with 2 things. Number 1, I'd like for you to share how people can find you.
Just simply jasonfoundation.com on the website. You can find all of our programs. You can find stats. A lot of our programs are downloadable. We don't charge for any program. If we agree to provide a program to an individual school, community, or even a state, we don't charge for it. So there's not anything you're going to get billed for. A lot of them are downloadable. A lot of our tools and resources are downloadable. Just jasonfoundation.com.
Perfect. And the final thing, and this is really important to me that we come out of Changemakers with this. There's going to be a lot of people that hear your story, hear other people's story, and they feel like, I want to do something. I don't know what that is, but I want to do something. So what words of wisdom in 20, 30 seconds do you have for somebody that might want to take action in some way, not necessarily with your organization, but following their own passion?
First, don't try to save the community and the world without first looking at your own family. Make sure you've learned what you need to learn to make sure you've taken care of your family and extended family. Learn all you can, whether it's through the Jason Foundation or some other there's a lot of good organization. Learn about youth suicide. Learn about the warning signs. Have a plan on how you take care of your family. Now look outside your family. Go to your schools. Are they training their teachers? Are they doing things to provide the resources they need for their school systems to help identify those young people who might struggle with thoughts of suicide? And then look beyond that, even your faith community, what the churches are doing. Try to influence your community and let that influence in the community then be the catalyst for going further. If you do that, we'll save lives.
Wow. Clark, that is absolutely amazing. I want to say thank you for taking the time out to be a part of this. Thank you, Larry, for introducing us to Clark. So what you're doing is amazing, sir. Keep up the great work, and
well, keep in touch with me.
I will. Guys, we've got more Changemakers coming up, so stay with us. A little bit more to cover before the night is over. Clark Flatt, thank you so much for being here. The jasonfoundation.com. Make sure you guys check it out.
Thank you.
I mean, what a story to end the 3-day series with. Wow. Really intense. Just can't imagine, you know, like he said, that 10 to 14, that it's now number 2 after, you know, the group of all the unintentional accidents. Kind of leaves me speechless. But it's another example of when a tragedy hits, how you can turn it around. And, you know, Jason continues to live through the foundation, and he's probably saved thousands of lives.
There's really no way to measure the impact. And I know in speaking with Larry about some of the things that they've experienced, there have been times where they know for a fact they were too late for an impact, or somebody doesn't share with them what they're feeling. And, you know, they've lost some people, and I know they take that personally and they take it to heart. And, you know, what Clark has done, and Larry, and really, to be like completely truthful, every single one of these change makers in their own way is not only impacting, but changing forever the lives of the people in their circle. And sometimes that reach goes beyond their circle and they don't even really know it. So Larry, we've come to the point in our show where we need to wrap it up. And before we do that, I just curious your final thoughts, your final takeaway as we go. as we go to the end of the show tonight.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is if you've watched any part of this show and it's inspired you, please share it with someone. Like I said before, there's so much bad news and negative news going around, but watching stories like this, it just gives more hope and inspiration to humankind. Be kind to one another, be respectful to one another, and know that you can make a change. You can make a change. It's possible, and that really makes me happy.
Yeah, so I'll just share a couple interesting things that I was thinking about as we were going through this. We've gone through about 15 liters of water in these 3 days. We've gone through at least 10 energy drinks. I'm not advocating the energy drinks, but this was a production and a labor of love. So, I'm sure in hindsight, there's a million things that I would have added or done differently, but you've acknowledged me a couple times. So I want to take a second and acknowledge you. This was no easy feat. You are the board president for Revitalize in 2021. And, it's when we were trying to kind of paint the picture of what this was going to be, I don't think anybody really had an idea what an impact it could have. But again, I'll say the biggest impact of all of this was on me. And I'm sure I speak for you, Larry, when I say on you, just a humbling experience. But I want to thank you for having the faith in what we were doing, for being the president of Revitalize for, I think 2 years now.
Couple years. Yes.
And continuing the mission, helping Revitalize to raise money in 2019 and help sustain them in 2020. And now here we are, 2021. It's been a great ride for this organization. And again, we had some people casting a little bit of shade when we decided to take Revitalize from being Revitalize St. Louis to a global brand focused on sharing the stories of good everywhere and the people doing good. But I think after tonight, they now know why. And we've known why for a long time. I want to thank all of the Changemakers. We received a lot of donations over the 3 nights. And, Carol, that's really nice what you said.
And can I also comment, Carol, all the videos will be available individually on the jimandlarryteam.com and on Revitalize, Jim?
Yeah, it'll be on all of them. It'll be on the YouTube channel. You'll have plenty of places to get it. We just want to make sure we get the right information in. I could easily post them right now, but we're going to take some time tomorrow to make sure we have web links correct, donation links correct, all of those things in there. So it'll take us a little bit of time to put it together. I hope to have them out by about 6 o'clock tomorrow evening at the latest. Hopefully it could be earlier, but we will debut all 33 interviews at one time. So it might take a long time to upload those now that I think about it. But either way, we'll make it work.
But yes, you'll be able to share the individual stories.
Yeah, and not only will you have the ability, but you will have the responsibility now that you know there's somebody that needs to know what is going on and who is doing it. So I'm proud of all of our change makers. Larry, I'm proud of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll give you the last 30 seconds as Mr. Board President to close it out.
Great. Well, tonight isn't the end. It's actually the beginning. We launched the videos and more stories on Monday, August 9th, and we continue through the 17th of November. And then on the 19th of November, we will be honoring Changemakers and supporting them. We've got LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups. We have more financial support coming their way. So this isn't the end, it's the beginning. And thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and live a better life. Be blessed. Thank you.